When I was a young boy in India, I ran away from home, convinced God had abandoned me. I sat weeping by the Ganges, ready to end my suffering forever. The pain in my heart was so deep, dear friend, that I felt I could not take another breath. My family had been pressuring me to abandon my spiritual seeking and pursue worldly success. They could not understand the burning desire in my soul to find God, to know the divine personally, not just through books and rituals but through direct communion. I felt so alone, so misunderstood, so certain that even the God I was seeking had turned his back on me. As I sat there by the sacred river, tears streaming down my face, preparing to end what felt like an unbearable existence, suddenly an old sadhu appeared. His eyes sparkled with divine light, and his very presence radiated peace. He looked at me with such compassion and said gently, "Child, do you think the river brought you here by accident? Do you think your tears are falling on holy ground without purpose? Do you think the divine who placed this longing for him in your heart would abandon you now when you need him most?" In that moment, something shifted in my consciousness. I understood with crystal clarity, we are never lost, only finding our way home. The very despair that had driven me to that riverbank was the divine's way of stripping away everything false so that I could discover what was eternally true. If you feel lost right now, beloved friend, if you feel abandoned and alone, if you found yourself watching this video in a moment of deep questioning or despair, you are about to discover the same truth that saved my life and transformed my understanding of how the divine works in our world. My dear soul, I want you to know something that will change everything for you today. By the time we finish our conversation together, you will never again feel truly alone or abandoned, because you're going to learn to recognize the constant, loving guidance that surrounds you every single moment. I know the loneliness that brought you here. I know what it feels like to stand at life's crossroads with no clear path forward. I know what it's like to pray desperately for answers and feel like your prayers are bouncing off a silent heaven. But what if I told you that this very uncertainty is the divine's way of asking you to trust him completely? What if your confusion is actually the beginning of your greatest clarity? What if the very struggles that make you feel forgotten are actually proof of how intimately involved the divine is in your life? What if I could show you that you have never been without guidance, not for a single moment, but you simply haven't learned to recognize the language in which that guidance comes? For over 30 years, I have walked between two worlds, the ancient wisdom of India's great masters and the practical needs of Western souls seeking truth. I have sat with dying saints who could barely whisper, yet whose words carried the power to transform lives forever. I have counseled successful businessmen who had everything the world could offer but felt empty inside. I have comforted grieving mothers who thought God had abandoned them in their darkest hour. And I have seen, again and again and again, how the divine works in ways so subtle, so perfect, so filled with love that once you learn to see it, you will wonder how you ever believed yourself to be alone. I have seen thousands transform their lives, not through magic, not through wishful thinking, but through understanding this one simple truth about divine guidance. Unlike other teachers who speak of abstract spiritual concepts that sound beautiful but leave you wondering how to apply them to your Monday morning troubles, I will show you the practical signs of guidance you experience every single day but have been trained to ignore by a world that has forgotten how to listen to the divine whisper. You will learn the practical signs of guidance, ancient art of reading the divine conversation that has been happening in your life all along. You will discover how to distinguish between the ego's fearful chatter and the soul's peaceful knowing. You will understand why some doors close and others open, why some prayers seem answered immediately while others require patient waiting, and how every single experience in your life, the pleasant and the difficult, the expected and the surprising, is part of a perfect divine curriculum designed specifically for your soul's awakening. Let me begin by sharing with you a story that opened my eyes to how intimately the divine is involved in the smallest details of our lives. There was a time, after I had begun teaching in America, when I found myself completely without money, stranded in a city far from home. I had been traveling across the country to share the teachings of Kriya Yoga and self-realization, but everything that could go wrong had gone wrong. My funds had been stolen from my hotel room while I slept. The contacts who had promised to arrange lectures had mysteriously disappeared. The train I was supposed to take had been canceled due to mechanical problems. I found myself sitting in a crowded train station with nothing but the clothes on my back, no ticket, and no way to continue my mission of serving souls hungry for spiritual truth. For a moment, the old doubts crept in. Had I misunderstood my calling? Was I foolish to leave the security of India to bring these teachings to America? Had the divine forgotten about me in this strange land so far from the sacred ashrams of my youth? I felt small, lost, and deeply discouraged. But then I remembered the teachings of my great guru, Sri Yukteswar. He had always told me, Yogananda, when you feel most abandoned, that is when the divine is closest to you, preparing the most beautiful surprise. So I found a quiet corner of that busy station and fell to my knees right there, among all those rushing strangers, and prayed with every fiber of my being. Divine Mother, I whispered, if you want me to serve you, if these teachings are truly meant to reach Western hearts, please show me the way. I have nothing left but faith in your love. I surrender everything to you, my mission, my reputation, my very life. Do with me what serves your highest will. I remained there in prayer for several minutes, feeling the chaos of the station fade away as I connected with the infinite peace within. When I opened my eyes, I noticed a well-dressed gentleman standing nearby. When I was a young boy in India, I ran away from home, convinced God had abandoned me. I sat weeping by the Ganges, ready to end my suffering forever. The pain in my heart was so deep, dear friend, that I felt I could not take another breath. My family had been pressuring me to abandon my spiritual seeking and pursue worldly success. They could not understand the burning desire in my soul to find God, to know the divine personally, not just through books and rituals but through direct communion. I felt so alone, so misunderstood, so certain that even the God I was seeking had turned his back on me. As I sat there by the sacred river, tears streaming down my face, preparing to end what felt like an unbearable existence, suddenly an old sadhu appeared. His eyes sparkled with divine light, and his very presence radiated peace. He looked at me with such compassion and said gently, "Child, do you think the river brought you here by accident? Do you think your tears are falling on holy ground without purpose? Do you think the divine who placed this longing for him in your heart would abandon you now when you need him most?" In that moment, something shifted in my consciousness. I understood with crystal clarity, we are never lost, only finding our way home. The very despair that had driven me to that riverbank was the divine's way of stripping away everything false so that I could discover what was eternally true. If you feel lost right now, beloved friend, if you feel abandoned and alone, if you found yourself watching this video in a moment of deep questioning or despair, you are about to discover the same truth that saved my life and transformed my understanding of how the divine works in our world. My dear soul, I want you to know something that will change everything for you today. By the time we finish our conversation together, you will never again feel truly alone or abandoned, because you're going to learn to recognize the constant, loving guidance that surrounds you every single moment. I know the loneliness that brought you here. I know what it feels like to stand at life's crossroads with no clear path forward. I know what it's like to pray desperately for answers and feel like your prayers are bouncing off a silent heaven. But what if I told you that this very uncertainty is the divine's way of asking you to trust him completely? What if your confusion is actually the beginning of your greatest clarity? What if the very struggles that make you feel forgotten are actually proof of how intimately involved the divine is in your life? What if I could show you that you have never been without guidance, not for a single moment, but you simply haven't learned to recognize the language in which that guidance comes? For over 30 years, I have walked between two worlds, the ancient wisdom of India's great masters and the practical needs of Western souls seeking truth. I have sat with dying saints who could barely whisper, yet whose words carried the power to transform lives forever. I have counseled successful businessmen who had everything the world could offer but felt empty inside. I have comforted grieving mothers who thought God had abandoned them in their darkest hour. And I have seen, again and again and again, how the divine works in ways so subtle, so perfect, so filled with love that once you learn to see it, you will wonder how you ever believed yourself to be alone. I have seen thousands transform their lives, not through magic, not through wishful thinking, but through understanding this one simple truth about divine guidance. Unlike other teachers who speak of abstract spiritual concepts that sound beautiful but leave you wondering how to apply them to your Monday morning troubles, I will show you the practical signs of guidance you experience every single day but have been trained to ignore by a world that has forgotten how to listen to the divine whisper. You will learn the practical signs of guidance, ancient art of reading the divine conversation that has been happening in your life all along. You will discover how to distinguish between the ego's fearful chatter and the soul's peaceful knowing. You will understand why some doors close and others open, why some prayers seem answered immediately, while others require patient waiting, and how every single experience in your life, the pleasant and the difficult, the expected and the surprising, is part of a perfect divine curriculum designed specifically for your soul's awakening. Let me begin by sharing with you a story that opened my eyes to how intimately the divine is involved in the smallest details of our lives. There was a time, after I had begun teaching in America, when I found myself completely without money, stranded in a city far from home. I had been traveling across the country to share the teachings of Kriya Yoga and self-realization, but everything that could go wrong had gone wrong. My funds had been stolen from my hotel room while I slept. The contacts who had promised to arrange lectures had mysteriously disappeared. The train I was supposed to take had been canceled due to mechanical problems. I found myself sitting in a crowded train station with nothing but the clothes on my back, no ticket, and no way to continue my mission of serving souls hungry for spiritual truth. For a moment, the old doubts crept in. Had I misunderstood my calling? Was I foolish to leave the security of India to bring these teachings to America? Had the divine forgotten about me in this strange land so far from the sacred ashrams of my youth? I felt small, lost, and deeply discouraged. But then I remembered the teachings of my great guru, Sri Yukteswar. He had always told me, Yogananda, when you feel most abandoned, that is when the divine is closest to you, preparing the most beautiful surprise. So I found a quiet corner of that busy station and fell to my knees right there among all those rushing strangers and prayed with every fiber of my being. Divine Mother, I whispered, if you want me to serve you, if these teachings are truly meant to reach Western hearts, please show me the way. I have nothing left but faith in your love. I surrender everything to you, my mission, my reputation, my very life. Do with me what serves your highest will. I remained there in prayer for several minutes, feeling the chaos of the station fade away as I connected with the infinite peace within. When I opened my eyes, I noticed a well-dressed gentleman standing nearby, watching me with curious eyes. He approached hesitantly and said, "Excuse me, sir, but I couldn't help but notice you praying. I don't mean to intrude, but something about your presence has touched my heart. Is there anything I can do to help you?" I explained my situation honestly, without begging or manipulation, simply sharing the truth of my circumstances. His eyes filled with tears, and he said, "This is extraordinary. Just this morning, I was praying for guidance about how to use the money my late wife left me. She always said she wanted it to go towards something that would bring spiritual light into the world. I believe meeting you is the answer to both our prayers." Not only did this kind soul buy my train ticket, but he invited me to speak at his home to a group of his friends who were seeking deeper spiritual understanding. That evening, gathering led to the establishment of one of our most important meditation centers, which went on to serve thousands of souls over the years. What seemed like my greatest failure, my most desperate hour, became the doorway to serving more people than I ever could have reached through the original plan that had fallen apart. This was not coincidence, dear friend. This was not luck or chance. This was divine orchestration responding to complete surrender. The divine had allowed everything to fall apart so that something far more beautiful could fall into place. The stolen money, the disappeared contacts, the canceled train, all of these apparent disasters were actually divine protection, steering me away from a lesser path toward a greater service. But this was only the beginning of my education in divine guidance. Let me share another story that will open your eyes even wider to how the divine communicates through the most ordinary circumstances. My great guru, Sri Yukteswar, had a peculiar way of teaching that often puzzled his disciples. He rarely gave lengthy philosophical lectures. Instead, he would use whatever was happening right in the moment to reveal profound spiritual truths. One day, as we walked through the ashram garden discussing some complex metaphysical concept I was struggling to understand, he stopped suddenly and pointed to a coconut that had just fallen from a tree with a loud thud. The timing was so perfect, it fell at the exact instant we passed beneath that tree, that we both looked up in surprise. "Yogananda," he said with that knowing smile that always indicated a teaching moment was coming, "do you think this coconut fell by accident? Do you believe it just happened to fall at the precise second we were walking here, discussing this very question about divine timing?" I looked at him puzzled, not sure what he was getting at. He picked up the coconut, examined it thoughtfully, and continued, "Just as this coconut fell at the exact moment we needed to see it, everything in your life falls at the perfect divine moment. The book that appears when you need its message, The friend who calls just when you're feeling lonely, the job opportunity that comes just when your finances are tight, the illness that slows you down just when you were headed in the wrong direction. None of these are accidents. He paused, letting the truth sink in, then added, "The divine uses the ordinary to reveal the extraordinary. The Creator speaks through His creation constantly, every moment, in countless ways. But most people are so busy planning their own lives, so focused on forcing their own will, that they miss the gentle guidance that surrounds them always. Your job, my dear disciple, is not to force the coconuts to fall when you want them to fall, but to recognize the perfect divine timing when they do fall." At first, I thought this was just a simple nature lesson, a poetic way of talking about paying attention to our surroundings. But over the months and years that followed, I began to see coconuts everywhere. Not literal coconuts, but those perfectly timed moments when exactly what I needed appeared at exactly the right time. There was the unexpected phone call that came just when I was wrestling with a difficult decision, and the caller unknowingly provided the exact insight I needed. There was the book that fell open to precisely the page that contained the answer to a question I'd been pondering for weeks. There were the chance meetings that became lifelong partnerships in service, the missed connections that protected me from wrong associations, the delays that allowed me to meet the right people at the right time. I began to understand that the divine was constantly communicating through what appeared to be random events, but were actually precise divine appointments. Every synchronicity, every meaningful coincidence, every moment when life seemed to wink at me was the Beloved's way of saying, "I am here, I am aware, I am actively participating in your life with perfect love and wisdom." Now you might be thinking, these are beautiful stories, Paramahansa, but how do I recognize this guidance in my own life? How do I know what's divine direction and what's just wishful thinking or coincidence? This brings me to the deeper teaching, and to share a story that illustrates how the divine often works in ways that initially appear to be obstacles or failures. Let me tell you about Sarah, an American devotee who attended our services faithfully for years. She was a sincere seeker, deeply devoted to her spiritual practices, but she struggled with doubt about whether God was really listening to her prayers. She had been unemployed for months, despite her qualifications and desperate searching. Her savings were nearly exhausted, and she was beginning to feel like a burden to her family. Finally, she received a call for an interview at a company she had dreamed of working for. The position was perfect for her skills. The salary would solve all her financial worries, and she felt certain this was the answer to her prayers. She spent days preparing, bought a new outfit she could barely afford, and prayed constantly for divine blessing on this opportunity. The morning of the interview, she left extra early, wanting to arrive with plenty of time to compose herself. But as she drove along the freeway, completely focused on the opportunity ahead, her car began making strange noises and suddenly died right there in traffic. She managed to coast to the shoulder, but she was stranded miles from anywhere, with no cell phone service and no way to reach the interview on time. She sat there in her broken-down car, still wearing her new interview outfit, and wept with frustration and disappointment. "God," she cried out, "I trusted you. I've been faithful, I've been patient, I've done everything right. How could you let me down like this? This was my chance, my answer to prayer, and now it's ruined." She was so angry, so heartbroken, that she was ready to give up on faith altogether. Here she had prayed desperately for help, believed wholeheartedly that this interview was divine provision, and now everything was destroyed by a mechanical failure that seemed to prove God didn't care about her practical needs. As she sat there crying, a tow truck pulled up behind her. The driver was a kind, middle-aged man who immediately began working to help her. As they waited for the tow, she found herself pouring out her whole story. The months of unemployment, the failed interview, her growing doubt about whether prayer really made any difference. This mechanic listened with genuine compassion, and when she finished, he said something that surprised her. "You know, I've been praying for months for someone with your exact background to help me manage my business. I've been so busy with the mechanical work that I can't keep up with the bookkeeping and customer service side of things. I know this probably sounds crazy, but would you be interested in talking about a partnership?" At first, she thought he was just being kind, trying to cheer her up. But as they talked more, she realized he was completely serious. His auto repair shop served primarily low-income families, and he had been dreaming of expanding it into a full automotive ministry that could provide reliable, affordable car repairs to people who couldn't afford the high prices at regular shops. Not only did Sarah end up with a better position than the original interview would have provided, more meaningful work, better pay, and flexible hours that allowed her to pursue her spiritual practices, but she eventually married this wonderful man who shared her values of service and compassion. Together, they built a thriving business that has helped thousands of families over the years, often providing free repairs to single mothers and elderly people on fixed incomes. The car breakdown wasn't divine punishment, it was divine protection from a job that would have led her away from her true purpose, and divine direction toward her soulmate and life mission. What she experienced as the worst day of her life, the moment she felt most abandoned by God, was actually the divine's greatest gift to her, delivered in a way that required her to trust completely when nothing made sense. Years later, Sarah would tell me with tears in her eyes, "If that car hadn't broken down exactly when and where it did, I would never have met my husband, never discovered my true calling, and never learned to recognize how intimately God is involved in even the smallest details of our lives." That breakdown was the most blessed breakdown I could ever have imagined. This story illustrates something profound about how the divine operates in our lives. There is a constant conversation happening between heaven and your heart, and most people miss it because they've never learned to speak the divine language. Most of us have been taught to interpret our experiences through the lens of human logic. Success is good, failure is bad. Getting what we want means God loves us. Not getting what we want means we're being punished or ignored. But divine logic operates from an infinitely larger perspective than our human minds can comprehend. What looks like rejection may be protection. What feels like delay may be perfect timing. What appears to be a closed door may be guidance toward a better path you never knew existed. The first great truth I want you to understand is this: the divine speaks to us constantly through three primary channels. And once you learn to recognize these channels, you will never again feel cut off from divine guidance. First, the divine speaks through circumstances. What you call coincidences, I call divine appointments. When the right person appears at the right moment, when unexpected doors open or close, when delays save you from harm you couldn't see, when obstacles redirect you toward better opportunities, this is the divine arranging your life with perfect love and wisdom. But here's what's crucial to understand. Divine guidance through circumstances doesn't always look like what we expect or want. Sometimes divine love shows up as a no that protects us from what would ultimately harm us. Sometimes it appears as an obstacle that forces us to develop strength we didn't know we needed. Sometimes it looks like loss that creates space for something better to enter our lives. Learn to see every circumstance, pleasant or challenging, as a loving message from your Heavenly Father. Ask not, "Why is this happening to me?" but "What is this teaching me? How is this serving my highest good? What is the divine trying to show me through this experience?" Second, the divine speaks through your intuition. Deep within your soul, beneath all the mental chatter and emotional turbulence, there is a place of perfect peace and knowing. This is where the divine whispers guidance directly to your heart. That quiet inner knowing that whispers, "Go this way," or "Wait a little longer," or "Trust this person," or "Be careful here." This is the voice of your soul in communion with the divine intelligence. But you must learn to distinguish between the ego's loud demands and the soul's gentle guidance. This is perhaps the most important skill you can develop in life. The ego speaks with urgency, fear, and self-interest. It shouts things like, "You must have this now," or "What if you lose everything?" or "You're not good enough." The ego creates drama and anxiety because it feeds on emotional intensity. The soul, on the other hand, whispers with peace, patience, and wisdom. The soul says things like, "Trust the process," or "All is well," or "This too shall pass," or "Love is the answer." The soul's guidance brings a feeling of rightness and expansion, even when it asks you to do something difficult or step outside your comfort zone. To hear the soul's voice clearly, you must regularly create stillness in your life. This is why meditation is not a luxury but a necessity for anyone who wants to live with divine guidance. Even 5 minutes of daily quiet time, sitting in silence and opening your heart to the divine, will dramatically increase your ability to receive and recognize inner guidance. Third, the divine speaks through people. Have you ever had someone say exactly what you needed to hear at precisely the right moment? Have you ever felt moved to share words of encouragement with a stranger, only to discover later how much they needed that message? Have you ever met someone who completely changed your perspective on an important issue just when you needed that new viewpoint? We are all instruments of divine guidance for each other. The divine uses human hearts, voices, and actions to deliver his love letters to his children. That friend who calls just when you're feeling lonely. That teacher who appears when you're ready for new learning. That stranger who offers help just when you need it most. These are not accidents. These are divine appointments arranged by infinite love. But here's something beautiful. You are not just a receiver of this guidance. You are also a channel for it. When you feel moved to help someone, to offer encouragement, to share wisdom, to extend kindness, follow these impulses. You may be the answer to someone else's prayer. You may be the divine appointment they desperately need. Once you understand this divine language and begin to recognize these three channels of communication, you must learn to trust what you receive. This leads us to the second great truth, the wisdom of divine timing. Oh, how we struggle against this. We want our prayers answered immediately, our problems solved instantly, our dreams fulfilled according to our timeline. We live in a culture that promises instant everything, and we bring this same impatience to our spiritual lives. But the divine operates from a much larger perspective than our limited human view can comprehend. What seems like delay to us may be perfect timing from the divine viewpoint. What feels like too late to our anxious minds may be exactly the right moment for our souls. I learned this lesson in a powerful way during my early years in America. I desperately wanted to establish a meditation retreat center where souls could come for deep spiritual training away from the distractions of city life. I found what seemed like the perfect property in the mountains, beautiful, peaceful, affordable, and available immediately. I was certain this was divine will manifesting. I prayed fervently. I worked tirelessly to arrange financing. I spent months planning how we would use the facilities to serve sincere seekers. But every single attempt was blocked. The financing fell through at the last minute. Permits were denied for mysterious reasons. Legal complications arose that no one could have predicted. Obstacles appeared everywhere I turned, like a massive invisible wall, blocking this path completely. I was heartbroken and confused. I had felt so certain this was divine guidance. I had put my whole heart into this project, had seen it as essential for serving more souls. How could every door be slamming shut if this was really God's will? Had I misunderstood the signs? Was I being punished for some hidden pride or selfishness? For 3 long years, I watched that property remain unsold while I continued to search for alternatives and wonder what I had done wrong. I questioned my ability to discern divine will. I wondered if I was foolish to think God cared about the practical details of establishing spiritual centers. But then, 3 years later, a much more suitable property became available, larger, more beautiful, in a better location, and at half the price of the original property. The sellers were elderly devotees who specifically wanted their land used for spiritual purposes, and they were willing to finance it themselves at extremely favorable terms. Everything that had been impossible with the first property happened effortlessly with this one. More importantly, during those 3 years of apparent delay, several crucial things had happened in my own development. I had gained experience managing smaller centers, which made me far better prepared to handle such a large responsibility. I had met key people who became essential partners in running the retreat center. I had refined my vision for what such a center should offer, based on lessons learned from earlier mistakes. And I had developed the patience and surrender that would be essential for guiding others in their spiritual growth. The divine's timing was absolutely perfect, even though it felt like cruel delay to my impatient human mind. Those 3 years weren't wasted time, they were preparation time, ensuring that when the right opportunity came, I would be ready to handle it with wisdom and maturity. Here's what I've learned about divine timing through decades of experience and observation. The divine's delays are not denials, they are preparations. Just as a farmer doesn't plant seeds in frozen ground but waits for the perfect season when conditions will allow for healthy growth, the divine waits for the perfect conditions in your life before bringing your prayers to fruition. Sometimes those conditions are external. The right people need to come together, the right opportunities need to align, the right resources need to become available. But often, the most important conditions that need to ripen are internal. You need to develop the wisdom, strength, patience, or surrender that will allow you to handle the blessing you're requesting. Think about it this way. If the divine gave you everything you wanted exactly when you wanted it, without regard for your spiritual readiness, it might actually harm you. The person who becomes wealthy before learning generosity may become selfish and isolated. The person who gains power before developing humility may become tyrannical. The person who finds their soulmate before learning self-love may create a dependent rather than loving relationship. The divine loves you too much to give you anything that would ultimately diminish your happiness or spiritual growth. So when prayers seem unanswered, when doors remain closed despite your best efforts, consider that infinite love may be protecting you from something that looks good to your human eyes, but would be harmful to your soul's development. Your job during waiting periods is not to force the seasons to change, but to use the time for inner growth and deeper surrender. Ask yourself, what qualities is this delay helping me develop? What am I learning about trust, patience, and faith? How is this experience preparing me for greater service or deeper love? This brings us to the most practical teaching, and perhaps the most challenging for those of us raised in a culture that emphasizes self-reliance and personal control: surrender as the pathway to guidance. When I use the word surrender, I don't mean becoming passive or giving up your efforts. True surrender is what I call dynamic surrender. You act with complete faith and dedication while letting go of attachment to specific outcomes. Dynamic surrender means you do your part with excellence and wholehearted commitment, then trust the divine to handle the results. It means you plant the seeds with care and attention, water them faithfully, and tend them lovingly. But you don't try to pull them up every day to check if they're growing. You trust the natural process and the divine intelligence that governs all growth and unfoldment. When you're trying to force outcomes through your own willpower alone, you actually block the divine flow. It's like trying to drink water from a fire hose. The very intensity of your grasping prevents you from receiving what you need. But when you hold your desires lightly, like a bird that can rest comfortably in your open palm but will fly away if you squeeze, then divine grace can flow freely into your life. Let me share a simple technique that has helped thousands of my students learn this balance between effort and surrender. When facing any challenge or pursuing any goal, begin with this prayer. Divine Father, I offer this situation to you completely. Show me what actions to take, give me strength to take them wholeheartedly, and help me trust you with the results. May whatever happens serve the highest good of all concerned. Then take whatever actions feel right and necessary, but do them as an offering to the divine rather than as attempts to force specific outcomes. Work with dedication but without anxiety. Plan with wisdom but hold plans lightly. Hope for the best while accepting that the divine may have an even better plan than anything you could imagine. This shift from demanding specific results to trusting divine wisdom changes everything. When you stop fighting against life and start flowing with the divine current, you discover that this current is always moving you toward your highest good, even when the path doesn't match your expectations. I want to teach you how to transform worry into prayer and anxiety into anticipation. This is one of the most practical skills you can develop for living with constant divine guidance. Instead of saying, "What if everything goes wrong?" begin asking, "What beautiful surprise is the divine preparing for me?" Instead of, "Why is this happening to me?" try, "How is this experience preparing me for my greater purpose?" Instead of, "I can't handle this uncertainty," practice saying, "I trust the divine to reveal the next step at exactly the right time." This shift in perspective changes your entire relationship with life's challenges. When you begin to see difficulties as divine strengthening exercises, delays as divine timing adjustments, and obstacles as divine course corrections, you stop fighting against your experiences and start learning from them. Now, my dear friend, let me give you practical ways to apply these truths immediately in your daily life. These are not abstract spiritual concepts, but concrete practices that will help you recognize and respond to divine guidance every single day. The first practice I want to teach you is what I call the morning guidance meditation. Each morning, before you begin your day, before you check your phone or start thinking about your to-do list, spend just 5 minutes in quiet communion with the divine. This is not 5 minutes you can spare. This is 5 minutes you cannot afford to skip if you want to live with conscious divine connection. Sit comfortably in a quiet place, close your eyes, and take several deep, slow breaths to center yourself. Then place your hands on your heart and say this simple prayer with complete sincerity. Divine Father, Divine Mother, I place this day in your loving hands. I am your child, and I trust your love for me completely. Show me how to serve your will today. Guide my steps, my words, my thoughts, and my actions. Help me recognize your guidance in every moment, every encounter, every decision I face. After offering this prayer, don't immediately fill the silence with more words or mental planning. Just sit quietly and listen with your heart open. You might receive a specific insight about the day ahead, a feeling about someone you should call or avoid, an impression about which tasks deserve priority, or simply a deep sense of peace and direction. Don't worry if you don't receive dramatic revelations. Often divine guidance comes as subtle, inner knowing, gentle feelings of rightness or caution, or increased clarity about decisions you've been pondering. Trust whatever comes, even if it seems small or ordinary. The divine often speaks in whispers rather than shouts. This morning guidance meditation will attune your consciousness to divine direction from the very beginning of each day. It's like tuning a radio to the right frequency. Once you're tuned in, you'll be amazed at how much divine communication you've been missing. The second practice is what I call the evening gratitude recognition. At the end of each day, spend another 5 minutes reviewing your experiences for signs of guidance you might have missed. This practice trains your awareness to see the divine hand in ordinary events, building your faith through consistent recognition of divine care. Ask yourself these questions. Where did I see divine protection today? What synchronicities occurred that I might have dismissed as coincidences? Which conversations carried deeper meaning than I first realized? How did apparent problems actually redirect me towards something better? What lessons was the divine teaching me through today's experiences? Write down your observations in a small notebook or journal. Over time, you'll begin to see patterns of divine care and guidance that will amaze you. You'll realize that you are never walking through life alone, that every day is filled with small miracles and loving interventions that you may have previously overlooked. The third practice is crucial for making important decisions, what I call the decision-making prayer process. Whenever you face a significant choice, whether it's about relationships, career, finances, or any other important matter, use this systematic approach to seek divine guidance. First, present your situation honestly to the divine without trying to influence the outcome. Say something like, "Heavenly Father, I need to choose between these paths, and I don't know which serves my highest good and the good of all concerned. I lay out before you all my options with complete honesty about my desires and fears." Then, instead of asking for what you want, ask for what serves divine will. I don't ask you to give me what I think I want. Instead, I ask you to guide me toward what serves the highest good of all. Not my will, but thine be done. Show me the way that brings the greatest blessing to everyone involved. After praying this way, pay careful attention to how you feel about each option over the following days. The divine choice usually brings a sense of peace, rightness, and expansion in your heart, even if it seems more challenging or less appealing to your mind. The ego's choices often feel tight, fearful, exciting in a nervous way, or primarily focused on personal advantage. Also notice what external signs appear. Do certain options keep getting blocked while others flow smoothly? Do people unexpectedly offer insights that favor one choice over others? Do you keep encountering information or experiences that seem to point in a particular direction? Sometimes the divine direction won't be completely clear immediately, and that's perfectly normal. In such cases, take the next obvious right step with faith, knowing that more guidance will come as you need it. The divine rarely shows us the entire staircase at once, just the next step or two. Trust that each faithful step will illuminate the path ahead. I want to teach you something I call divine expectancy, a way of moving through life that keeps you constantly open to divine guidance and miraculous interventions. Instead of approaching each day with worry and stress about all the things that might go wrong, practice maintaining a gentle anticipation that something wonderful is unfolding in your experience. This doesn't mean being naive about challenges or refusing to plan responsibly. It means maintaining an underlying faith that the divine is always working for your ultimate good, even when circumstances are difficult or unclear. Begin each day with this affirmation: something beautiful is preparing to manifest in my life today. I am open and ready to receive all the good that divine love has in store for me. Then watch throughout the day for signs of this beauty appearing: the unexpected kindness of a stranger, the solution to a problem you've been worried about, the opportunity that comes from a surprising direction, the conversation that lifts your spirits just when you need it most. When difficulties arise, immediately shift into what I call divine inquiry. Instead of falling into worry or self-pity, ask, how is this serving my growth? What is this teaching me about trust, patience, or love? How is this protecting me or redirecting me towards something better? What gift is hidden in this apparent challenge? This practice transforms you from a victim of circumstances into a student of divine wisdom. Every experience becomes a classroom, Every challenge becomes a teacher. Every person you meet becomes a potential messenger of divine love. Remember, dear soul, that every person who enters your life, every book that comes your way, every opportunity or obstacle you encounter is part of the divine curriculum designed specifically for your soul's evolution. Nothing is random. Everything has purpose. Your job is not to understand every detail of the divine plan. Your human mind is not equipped for that vast comprehension, but to trust in the perfect love that is orchestrating every moment of your experience. Let me share with you one final story that illustrates how profound and personal divine guidance can be. There was a woman named Margaret who came to our meditation center years ago, deeply depressed and on the verge of suicide. She had lost her husband in a car accident, her teenage daughter had run away from home, and she had been diagnosed with a serious illness that was draining her savings and her hope. She told me she had stopped praying because she felt God had abandoned her completely. If there's a loving God, she said, how could He allow so much pain in one person's life? I've tried to be good, I've helped others, I've gone to church faithfully for years. What did I do to deserve such punishment? I listened to her pain with deep compassion, then shared with her the same truths I'm sharing with you today. I encouraged her to begin the simple practices of morning prayer and evening reflection, not because I expected immediate miraculous changes, but because these practices would help her recognize the divine love that was already surrounding her. For weeks, she practiced half-heartedly, going through the motions without much faith, but gradually, small things began to shift. She noticed that every time she felt most hopeless, someone would call or visit unexpectedly. When she ran out of money for groceries, a neighbor would bring extra food from their garden. When she felt too weak from treatments to manage household tasks, church members would appear to help without being asked. Then came the bigger breakthrough. During one of her morning prayers, she felt strongly moved to visit a coffee shop she had never been to before. It seemed like a silly impulse, but she had been learning to trust even small inner promptings. At the coffee shop, she overheard a conversation at the next table. A social worker talking to a colleague about a young runaway who had been found and was looking for her mother. It was her daughter. The social worker gave her the information needed to reconnect with her child, who had been trying to find a way home but was too ashamed and scared to reach out directly. The reunion was difficult at first. There was much healing needed, but it marked the beginning of their relationship being rebuilt on deeper love and understanding. Margaret's health also began to improve, not through sudden miracle healing, but through a combination of better medical care that became available through a program she learned about from another patient and the renewed will to live that came from having her daughter back in her life. Years later, Margaret became one of our most effective counselors for people going through grief and loss. She would tell them, I know it feels like God has forgotten you, but I promise you, the divine is working in your life right now in ways you cannot see. Your job is not to understand how everything will work out, but to stay open to the love that is trying to reach you in every moment. This is what I want you to understand, dear friend. The divine's love for you is not conditional on your being perfect, successful, or free from problems. The divine's love for you is constant, intimate, and actively involved in every detail of your life. The very struggles that make you feel forgotten are often the divine's way of clearing space for greater blessings to enter your experience. Let me teach you one more profound practice that has transformed the lives of countless souls who felt lost and abandoned, what I call the practice of sacred listening. This goes beyond the morning and evening practices I've already shared. This is about developing moment-to-moment awareness of the divine conversation that is always happening around and within you. Throughout your day, especially during transitions, when you're walking from one place to another, waiting in line, or sitting in traffic, instead of filling these moments with mental chatter or worry, practice listening for divine whispers. Ask silently, what are you trying to tell me right now, beloved? Then pay attention to what you notice. It might be a phrase you overhear from a passerby that speaks directly to a concern you've been carrying. It might be a sign on a building that contains the answer to a question you've been pondering. It might be the sight of an elderly couple holding hands that reminds you to call someone you love. It might be a bird landing near you just when you need a reminder of the freedom that comes from trusting divine will. The divine is always speaking, but most people are too busy talking, either out loud or in their minds, to hear the gentle guidance that surrounds them constantly. When you practice sacred listening, you begin to realize that you live in a universe that is alive with love and intelligence, constantly communicating with you through countless channels. I want to share with you the story of how this practice literally saved a man's life. Robert was a businessman who came to our center after his wife insisted he needed spiritual help for his stress and anger. He was skeptical about meditation and prayer, considering himself too practical for such things, but he agreed to attend a few lectures to appease his wife. After hearing about sacred listening, he decided to try it as an experiment during his daily commute to work. Instead of spending the drive planning his day or worrying about problems, he began asking the divine for guidance and paying attention to whatever he noticed around him. One morning, as he was driving his usual route to an important business meeting, he felt a strong inner prompting to take a different street, a route that would actually take longer and make him late for his appointment. This made no logical sense, and his first impulse was to ignore the feeling and stick to his planned route. But something about the inner prompting felt different from his usual mental chatter. It carried a quality of peaceful certainty that he had learned to associate with divine guidance. So he decided to trust it, even though he couldn't understand why. 20 minutes later, he heard on the radio that there had been a massive multi-car accident on his usual route at exactly the time he would have been driving through that intersection. Several people had been killed. If he had followed his original plan, he would have been in the middle of that deadly collision. This experience transformed Robert's entire worldview. He realized that the divine intelligence that governs the universe was intimately aware of him and actively protecting him, even when he had barely begun to believe in such things. He became one of our most devoted students and eventually started teaching meditation to other skeptical businessmen who needed to learn how to listen for divine guidance. But sacred listening isn't just about avoiding danger or receiving dramatic guidance. Most of the time, it's about the countless small ways the divine enriches your daily experience with beauty, wisdom, and love. It's about noticing the perfect timing of events, the meaningful connections between experiences, the way solutions appear just when you need them most. When you practice sacred listening consistently, you begin to see that your life is not a series of random events, but a beautifully orchestrated symphony of divine love. Every note has purpose, every rest has meaning, and every movement builds toward a crescendo of awakening that you cannot yet fully imagine. Now I want to address something that troubles many sincere seekers. What to do when you feel you're receiving conflicting guidance, or when you're not sure if what you're experiencing is truly divine direction or simply your own wishful thinking. This is a crucial skill that requires both discernment and humility. True divine guidance has certain consistent characteristics that you can learn to recognize. First, authentic divine guidance brings peace, even when it asks you to do something challenging or step outside your comfort zone. The divine never guides through fear, anxiety, or urgency, although it may ask you to act courageously despite your fears. Second, divine guidance serves not only your highest good but the good of all concerned. The divine never asks you to harm others or to pursue your happiness at someone else's expense. If what you think is guidance would require you to be dishonest, manipulative, or cruel, you can be certain it's coming from ego rather than soul. Third, divine guidance often asks you to grow beyond your current limitations. It may feel uncomfortable because it challenges you to become more loving, more courageous, more generous, or more trusting than you've been before. The ego prefers familiar patterns, even when they're self-destructive. The divine constantly calls you toward expansion and evolution. Fourth, divine guidance unfolds gradually and allows for course corrections. The divine doesn't usually demand immediate, irreversible decisions. True guidance gives you time to pray, reflect, and seek wise counsel. It encourages you to move forward step by step, staying alert for new information or changing circumstances. When you're uncertain whether you're receiving divine guidance or experiencing your own mental projections, use what I call the 3 tests of divine will. First, does this guidance increase your capacity for love for yourself, for others, and for the divine? Second, does it serve not only your own good but the welfare of everyone involved? Third, does it bring deep peace to your heart, even if it challenges your mind or emotions? If your guidance passes all 3 tests, move forward with confidence. If it fails any of these tests, spend more time in prayer and reflection before taking action. I also want to teach you about what I call divine patience. Chapter says, learning to wait with faith when guidance doesn't come immediately or when the guidance you receive doesn't make complete sense right away. Sometimes the divine asks you to wait because the timing isn't right. Sometimes you're being asked to develop greater trust or surrender before receiving clearer direction. During these waiting periods, resist the temptation to force answers through mental analysis or to grab onto the first option that appears simply because uncertainty feels uncomfortable. Instead, deepen your spiritual practices, serve others with greater love, and trust that clarity will come at exactly the right moment. Remember the words of the Psalms, "Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart." Waiting on the divine doesn't mean passive inactivity. It means maintaining active faith, continuing to do whatever loving actions are clearly before you, while trusting that larger guidance will unfold in divine timing. Let me share a practice that has helped countless souls learn to wait with grace and faith. When you're in a period of uncertainty, when you've prayed for guidance but haven't received clear direction, use this daily affirmation: I rest in divine timing. I trust that all the information I need will come to me at exactly the right moment. Until then, I focus on being the most loving person I can be in whatever circumstances I find myself today. This affirmation keeps you from falling into anxiety about the future, while helping you remain open to guidance when it comes. It also ensures that you don't waste waiting periods in worry, but instead use them for spiritual growth and service to others. Now I want to address one of the most common obstacles to receiving divine guidance, what I call the noise of modern life. We live in an age of constant distraction, endless information, and relentless stimulation. Our minds are rarely quiet enough to hear the subtle voice of the divine speaking within our hearts. If you truly want to live with conscious divine guidance, you must create regular spaces of silence and simplicity in your life. This doesn't mean you have to become a monk or abandon your responsibilities, but it does mean making conscious choices to protect your inner peace from the chaos of the modern world. Consider implementing what I call sacred boundaries in your daily routine. Perhaps the first hour of your morning and the last hour before sleep are devoted to spiritual practices and reflection, with no phones, no news, no unnecessary stimulation. Maybe you designate certain times each week for solitude in nature, where you can listen to the divine speaking through the wind, the birds, and the growing things. Create what I call sanctuary moments throughout your day, brief pauses where you close your eyes, take a deep breath, and reconnect with the divine presence within you. These might last only 30 seconds, but they help maintain your spiritual awareness amid the demands of daily life. Most importantly, learn to fast periodically from information overload. Spend a day each week, or even just a few hours, without consuming news, social media, or entertainment. Use this time instead for prayer, meditation, spiritual reading, or gentle service to others. You'll be amazed at how much clearer your inner voice becomes when it's not competing with the constant chatter of the external world. I want to share one more profound truth about divine guidance that may surprise you. The divine doesn't just guide you toward what serves your individual needs and growth. You are being guided to play your unique part in the healing and awakening of our entire world. Your personal journey of learning to recognize and follow divine direction is connected to a much larger spiritual evolution happening on our planet. Every time you choose love over fear, trust over anxiety, service over selfishness, you are not just transforming your own life, you are contributing to the transformation of human consciousness itself. Every act of faith, every moment of surrender, every choice to see divine purpose in your experiences adds light to a world that desperately needs more illumination. This is why learning to live with divine guidance is not a luxury or a personal indulgence. It is your sacred responsibility as a human being. You came into this world at this particular time because your awakened consciousness is needed. The challenges you face, the gifts you carry, the lessons you're learning, all of these prepare you to serve others who are walking similar paths of spiritual discovery. When you feel discouraged about your progress, when you wonder if your small acts of faith and love really matter, remember that you are part of a vast community of souls who are all learning to live with greater divine awareness. Your growth inspires others. Your courage gives others strength. Your willingness to trust divine guidance, even when it doesn't make sense to your human mind, helps create a world where such trust becomes easier for everyone. This is the true purpose of divine guidance, not just to make your personal life more comfortable or successful, but to help you become an instrument of divine love in a world that hungers for authentic spiritual nourishment. Every moment you spend in communion with the divine, every act of service you perform with a surrendered heart, every time you choose to see divine purpose in difficult circumstances, you are fulfilling your deepest reason for being here. Let me teach you one final practice, beloved soul. As you walk through the corridors of your heart, there is a room that many keep closed and unvisited, a chamber of silent memories, soft echoes of longing, unresolved tears, and questions never answered. This is the place where your bond with your mother rests, a bond so deep and mysterious that even the strongest minds struggle to comprehend it. Many of you carry burdens from this connection, perhaps unspoken misunderstandings, the ache of feeling unseen or unloved, or a heavy sorrow born of separation or loss. These wounds, though silent, often linger far longer than you realize, shaping your emotions, your choices, and even your spiritual path. For years, humanity has tried to heal this pain through reasoning, conversation, or external forgiveness. Some find temporary relief, yet the root remains untouched, buried in the soul where no worldly remedy can reach. Why is it that even after decades, a single memory of a mother's words can stir emotions so powerful they flood the heart anew? Why do we struggle to let go of hurt when we know with the mind that forgiveness is noble? I tell you, beloved, it is because the bond between mother and child is not merely physical, not merely emotional, it is divine and karmic. It stretches beyond this lifetime, woven through many incarnations, carrying lessons and gifts your soul has chosen for its own evolution. Until you understand this sacred truth, you may spend years seeking healing and never truly find it. But there is hope, luminous and real. The day you awaken to the divine mystery behind your relationship with your mother, the chains that have bound your heart will begin to dissolve. You will see that what felt like punishment was in truth a lesson in spiritual growth, that even imperfections and hurts were threads in a higher design meant to lead you closer to God. You will no longer seek healing outside yourself, because you will realize that healing begins by understanding this divine bond and seeing it through the eyes of spirit. Come now, beloved soul, let us walk together into this understanding. Let us lift the veil of Maya that has obscured the truth about your mother. Let us see through the eyes of eternity, and let us begin the journey to a healing so profound that lifetimes of pain can melt away in the light of divine remembrance. Beloved soul, to understand the bond you share with your earthly mother, you must first see beyond the surface of human roles and step into the vast mystery of divine orchestration. Before you were born into this body, before your eyes first opened to the light of this world, your soul journeyed through realms unseen, guided by divine intelligence that knows every thread of your karma and every lesson your heart must learn. In that celestial preparation, you did not randomly enter a family or stumble by chance into your mother's womb. No, beloved, it was a sacred choice, made under the watchful gaze of God, aligned perfectly with the next steps of your spiritual evolution. The mother is not only a woman of flesh and blood, she is a living instrument of Divine Mother herself, the cosmic, nurturing force of spirit that births, sustains, and uplifts all creation. Through your earthly mother, whether she was tender and loving or stern and distant, the Divine Mother reached down to usher your soul into this human experience. Even her shortcomings, even the moments where love seemed withheld, were not outside of divine law. They, too, were threads woven into the tapestry of your awakening, for every soul needs both light and shadow to ripen into spiritual maturity. You see, beloved, the sacred contract between mother and child is not a single act of biological creation, it is a continuum of divine relationship that transcends one lifetime. Many times in past incarnations, the roles may have been reversed, you as her parent, guide, or even stranger crossing her path in another era. Through these exchanges, karma both harmonious and disharmonious was formed. This karma pulls souls together again and again until the lessons of love, forgiveness, compassion, and understanding are fully learned. In this way, your mother is both a mirror and a messenger. A mirror because through her, you encounter parts of yourself your soul has yet to heal or fully embrace. A messenger because she carries divine signals meant to awaken the higher truth of who you are. When this is understood deeply, you no longer see your relationship with her as mere accident or misfortune. Whether your experience was wrapped in tenderness or trials, you begin to feel reverence for the role she played as a divine channel guiding your soul through necessary experiences. Let this truth settle into your heart now. Your mother is not just a personality shaped by human circumstance. She is a chosen instrument through which Divine Mother herself has loved you, challenged you, and shaped your path back toward the infinite. This recognition is the first step toward transcendent healing, the kind that does not merely patch over wounds but dissolves them in the radiant light of spiritual understanding. Beloved soul, Now that you have glimpsed the divine mystery of motherhood, let us journey deeper into the unseen tapestry of karma that binds mother and child across lifetimes. Karma is not a sentence handed down by a stern judge. It is a living energy born of every thought, action, and intention you have ever set into motion. This energy, like a magnetic current, draws souls together in ways that the rational mind cannot always fathom. When you were born to your mother in this life, it was not a coincidence, nor a random union. It was a precise and sacred response to karmic currents seeking resolution and harmony. Perhaps in a previous life, you walked beside your mother, in another role a friend who betrayed her trust, a guide who failed to protect her, or a child she once nurtured and lost. The unresolved vibrations of those encounters traveled forward, waiting for the perfect moment to be healed. In divine wisdom, your souls met again, clothed in new bodies and new circumstances, carrying old echoes of unfinished lessons. Through love, conflict, care, or misunderstanding, the karmic energies between you began to surface, not to punish but to offer both souls the opportunity to rise, forgive, and return to the harmony you once lost. Even in the happiest mother-child bonds, karma is at play. A soul that poured out sacrifice and love in a prior life may return as a child to be nurtured by the one it once helped, balancing the scales of giving and receiving. In relationships where tension and pain seem more dominant than peace, do not despair. These too are invitations for profound spiritual growth. Through challenge, forgiveness is forged. Through misunderstanding, patience and compassion are born. Yogananda taught that the family is the first school of the soul. Every embrace, every harsh word, every sacrifice and misunderstanding between you and your mother is a lesson designed by cosmic intelligence to mature your spirit. When you recognize this, resentment begins to dissolve, replaced by an awe that divine law has brought you together not by chance, but by the unbreakable pull of love seeking completion. Feel this truth wash through you now. Whatever has passed between you and your mother, it is part of an ancient dance of souls moving toward redemption. There is nothing to hate, nothing to cling to, only energies to understand, transform, and release in the light of spirit. This awareness alone begins to untangle the karmic knots and opens the door for divine healing to flow freely through your life. Beloved soul, it is natural to believe that healing requires a perfect expression of motherly love, a warm and unwavering presence free from flaws or failings. But in the realm of spirit, perfection is not found in human behavior, is found in the divine lessons hidden within every experience, even those marked by sorrow or pain. The imperfections you witnessed or felt in your relationship with your mother were not proof of divine abandonment. They were, though difficult to see at the time, vessels carrying unseen blessings meant for your soul's awakening. Perhaps your mother struggled with her own wounds, unable to fully express the love within her heart. Perhaps she carried karmic burdens from her own childhood, echoes of pain that shaped her ways of speaking, nurturing, or withholding affection. In the human drama, these limitations may have felt like rejection or loss, but through the lens of divine wisdom, they become sacred teachers. For each moment you felt unseen, your soul was being nudged to seek recognition, not from mortal eyes but from the eternal gaze of God. Each time affection was scarce, you were being drawn toward the inexhaustible, unconditional love of Divine Mother, waiting silently within you. Yogananda often said that life's trials are not meant to crush us, but to redirect our gaze toward the infinite. In this light, your mother's imperfections were not obstacles to your healing. They were part of the very path toward it. Without those challenges, your longing for deeper, spiritual love might never have been awakened. Without those misunderstandings, the strength to forgive and expand your heart might never have been born. This does not mean we deny pain or pretend wounds do not exist. True healing requires honest acknowledgement of every hurt. But it also requires us to lift those experiences into higher understanding, seeing that Divine Mother's hand was present even in the shadows. What appeared as absence of love often contained a hidden call for you to become a channel of divine love, yourself to forgive where you wished only to be forgiven, to nurture where you once felt neglected, to transform pain into compassion for all souls who suffer silently. Beloved, can you see now how nothing was wasted? How every tear, every unspoken word, every longing of your childhood has been guiding you toward the realization that human perfection is not the source of your healing. That only divine love, flowing through the lessons life offers, can mend the deepest fractures of the heart. Hold this truth gently in your soul. Your mother's imperfections were not the end of love, they were the stepping stones leading you toward an infinite well of divine blessing that can never be taken away. Beloved soul, let us now enter the sacred, unseen terrain of the subconscious mind, a realm not fully understood by science, yet clearly known to the soul, for it is here that the earliest impressions of love, safety, and identity are imprinted, not with words, but with vibration. And of all the forces that shape this hidden chamber of your being, none is more potent in the early years of life than the presence, voice, and emotional climate of the mother. From the first breath, even before the body emerges from the womb, the soul absorbs the energetic blueprint of the mother's consciousness. Her thoughts, her fears, her serenity or anxiety, these are not locked away within her alone. They radiate outward in subtle currents that bathe the unborn child like invisible light. Her heartbeat becomes the first rhythm of reassurance. Her voice becomes the first vibration of external sound. Her energy, whether peaceful or restless, becomes the ambient field into which the soul incarnates. The mother, therefore, is not merely a caretaker of the child's body, she is the primal architect of the subconscious temple that the child will carry for the rest of its life. Yogananda taught that the subconscious is like a darkened room where all experiences are stored as pictures. These impressions, especially those formed in early childhood, play out silently in adult life as emotional reactions, belief systems, and instinctive behaviors. If the mother radiates unconditional love, calm strength, and spiritual devotion, those vibrations become the silent soil in which the child's inner life blossoms. But if the mother, through her own unhealed wounds or karmic burdens, expresses fear, criticism, or emotional absence, the child absorbs those patterns too not as intellectual lessons, but as deep, unspoken beliefs about their worth, their safety, their ability to receive and give love. And yet, beloved, do not think of this as blame. There is no room for judgment in divine understanding, only recognition and liberation. Your mother gave what she could from the level of consciousness she had attained. And whatever was imprinted upon your subconscious through her was permitted by divine law, not as punishment, but as preparation for the soul lessons you came to master. The gaps in nurturing were placed there that you might one day choose to fill them with divine remembrance. The patterns of fear were permitted that you might one day recognize them and choose, in full awareness, to replace them with courage, peace, and spiritual faith. To heal the subconscious is not to erase the past, but to fill it with light. It is to go into that silent room with the lantern of divine awareness and say to every wounded imprint, every voice that said you are not enough, you are not the voice of God. You are a shadow, and I now walk with the light of truth. Through meditation, through prayer, and especially through deep communion with Divine Mother, you can reprogram the very foundation of your inner life, not by force, but by replacing old vibrations with higher ones, just as sunlight effortlessly dispels darkness, one ray at a time. And so I tell you, no matter what was formed in your early years, no matter what impressions were left by your mother's words or silences, you are not bound to them forever. You have the power, right now, to become a conscious co-creator of your subconscious, to bless the past, forgive its players, and infuse your inner temple with the radiant peace of the infinite Mother, who has always loved you before birth, in every life, and beyond all worlds. Beloved soul, within the depths of your being, beneath the layers of maturity, strength, and adult understanding, there dwells a tender presence, the inner child. This inner child is not merely a psychological idea. It is the living memory of your soul's early impressions, the first echoes of love and longing, the first experiences of comfort or abandonment. When these early experiences were harmonious, the inner child rests peacefully within you. But when they were shaken by misunderstanding, neglect, or unhealed karmic patterns, that inner child still calls out silently, yearning for warmth and divine reassurance. Many souls live their entire lives unaware of this quiet cry within. They feel unexplained sadness, recurring patterns of relationship pain, or sudden fears they cannot trace to present events. This is the voice of the wounded inner child, a fragment of your heart that still waits to be embraced, understood, and healed. And no earthly success, no fleeting comforts can truly soothe this silent cry, For what it seeks is not worldly approval, but the eternal, all-encompassing love of God as Divine Mother. Your earthly mother was meant to be the first channel of that divine comfort, the first human expression of God's nurturing presence. When that expression was clouded or imperfect, the wound remained. Yet, beloved, you must know this. No wound is permanent when you awaken to the truth that Divine Mother has never left your side. The Cosmic Mother's love was present even in the moments of neglect, even in the tears of misunderstanding, silently holding your soul, waiting for the day you would turn inward and feel her embrace. To begin this healing, you must first recognize and acknowledge the presence of this wounded inner child. Sit in stillness, breathe deeply, and with closed eyes, imagine yourself as a young child, innocent, pure, perhaps longing for love or safety. Without judgment or resistance, approach this image with compassion. Whisper inwardly, "I see you. I know you have been hurting. I am here now to hold you with God's love." As you breathe, visualize Divine Mother's light surrounding that inner child, filling every corner of its sadness with warmth, comfort, and radiant peace. This practice is not imagination. It is a direct way of allowing divine love to penetrate layers of subconscious pain, reconnecting your fractured self with the eternal embrace of spirit. When you do this, you will begin to feel a profound release, a gentle unburdening of old emotional chains that you have carried for decades or even lifetimes. The cry of the inner child, once silent and aching, begins to harmonize with the cosmic lullaby of Divine Mother, who whispers to you, "Beloved child, I was always with you. You have never been unloved, never been abandoned. Rest now in my arms." Through this communion, healing is not forced, it is awakened. You start to see that every unfulfilled need from your earthly mother can now be met by the Infinite Mother, who nurtures you not only in this moment but has held your soul in her light since before the stars were born. This is the healing no earthly means can offer, for it comes directly from the source of all love. Beloved soul, forgiveness is one of the highest paths to spiritual freedom, yet it is often misunderstood. Many think forgiveness means excusing harmful behavior or pretending that wounds were never inflicted. True forgiveness does not deny pain, nor does it demand reconciliation with actions that harmed you. Instead, forgiveness is the soul's way of releasing karmic chains that bind not only the one who caused pain but also the one who clings to it. Until forgiveness dawns, you carry the weight of unhealed energy within you, and this burden silently shapes your thoughts, emotions, and destiny. When the wound involves your mother, forgiveness can feel especially complex. She was meant to be the source of nurturing and comfort, the earthly vessel of Divine Mother's love. When this expectation is broken through neglect, misunderstanding, or her own human struggles, the hurt penetrates deeply. Many souls, unable to face this pain, build walls around their hearts, vowing never to be vulnerable again. But such defenses do not heal. They merely harden the wound. The only true balm is the luminous power of forgiveness, which transforms sorrow into wisdom and opens the gates of spiritual liberation. How can you forgive when the pain feels too great? Yogananda taught that forgiveness is not generated by human effort alone, it is born of divine grace. When you meditate and commune with spirit, you begin to see your mother not as a flawless or flawed human, but as a soul on her own karmic journey, struggling, learning, and evolving just as you are. You start to realize that every unkind word or unmet need stemmed from her own unhealed wounds, from limitations she carried, perhaps from lifetimes long past. This understanding softens the heart, making space for compassion to enter. Practice now a silent prayer for forgiveness. Close your eyes and picture your mother's face not as she appeared during conflict or pain, but as a soul of light, clothed in divine energy. Inwardly say, "Divine Mother, I release these old wounds into your hands. I no longer cling to anger, sorrow, or blame. Bless my mother's soul, heal her as you heal me. Let only light flow between us now." As you breathe, imagine all knots of resentment untying, like heavy chains falling away into a river of light that carries them into divine peace. Forgiveness does not always mean closeness or outward reconciliation. Sometimes souls continue their journeys apart. But spiritually, forgiveness severs karmic threads of pain, replacing them with threads of light that lift both souls higher. Even if your mother has left this world, forgiveness reaches her in the astral realms, freeing her spirit just as it frees yours. Divine law recognizes these acts of grace, and blessings ripple through your life in unseen ways. Emotional burdens lift, peace enters the heart, and long stagnant energies begin to move toward healing. Beloved, forgiveness is not weakness. It is spiritual mastery. It is choosing to no longer let past shadows dictate the present. When you forgive, you do not erase what happened, you transcend it. You transform karmic darkness into divine light, allowing both your soul and your mother's soul to walk a lighter, freer path toward union with God. Beloved soul, as forgiveness softens the heart and begins dissolving karmic knots, a new dawn arises within you, a sacred realization that the nurturing, boundless love you sought in your earthly mother has always been fully present in your eternal, divine mother. This cosmic mother is not bound by human flaws, limitations, or changing moods. She is the silent, radiant, all-accepting embrace of spirit that has loved you before you were born and will continue to love you long after you have shed this earthly body. Yogananda often spoke of this divine mother as the most tender aspect of God, the one who listens to every unspoken prayer, who feels every tear before it falls, and who stands eternally ready to comfort and guide her children. To awaken to this presence is to discover that no wound, no earthly loss, no moment of abandonment can ever separate you from perfect love. Close your eyes now, beloved, and take a deep breath. As you inhale, imagine drawing in a warm, luminous energy from above your head, a golden light that is soft yet powerful. As this light enters your chest, feel it spreading gently, as though 1,000 motherly arms are embracing you from within. Exhale slowly, releasing all remaining sorrow into this divine embrace. In this quiet moment, silently whisper, "Divine Mother, I return to you. Heal my heart, guide my soul, and let me feel your eternal love in every breath I take." The more you practice this inner communion, the more you awaken to a profound truth. You are not only loved by Divine Mother, you are a reflection of her. Her nurturing presence dwells within you as compassion, as the instinct to care, as the longing to heal and comfort others. When you embrace this inner presence, you cease searching outside for what only spirit can give. You realize that the love you thought was withheld by your earthly mother is already overflowing within you, inexhaustible and pure. In awakening this divine aspect, you begin to mother yourself spiritually. You speak kindly to your own wounded parts, you offer yourself understanding and patience, and you extend these same qualities to others. This is not self-indulgence, it is self-realization. It is allowing God's maternal love to flow through you so freely that every trace of old pain is gradually washed away in waves of divine compassion. Beloved, when this awakening deepens, a miraculous transformation occurs. You stop looking backward, trying to rewrite your past, and instead you feel carried forward by a higher love that has always been there. Your relationship with your earthly mother softens, even if words are never exchanged, because you now see her through the lens of divine understanding. And more importantly, you no longer feel incomplete, for you have found within yourself the infinite embrace of the Mother of all creation. Beloved one, once the Divine Mother within you has been awakened, once the river of forgiveness has begun to wash away the remnants of old suffering, you gain a sacred power. The power to rewrite the soul's inner story, to choose no longer to carry the weight of inherited pain, misunderstanding, or resentment, but to script a new relationship with your earthly mother from the higher plane of spiritual awareness, where love, not blame, becomes the thread that binds. It is not that the past is erased, nor that the wrongs done are denied or forgotten. Rather, the meaning of those experiences is transfigured in the light of divine purpose. For when you begin to see through the eye of wisdom, you understand that every Salis, even your mother, has come into this world with karmic burdens, veiled memories, and wounds of her own, perhaps carried from lifetimes past, perhaps inherited from those who came before her. And in this vision, what once felt like betrayal or coldness may now appear as spiritual ignorance, not malice, as unconsciousness, not cruelty. The soul of your mother, though it may have failed to love you perfectly, was chosen, yes, chosen by the cosmic law that governs the evolution of every being for reasons far greater than human affection alone. This is why I say to you, you can choose to write a new script, even if your mother has passed away, even if she remains emotionally distant. You are not bound to the story of the wounded child forever. You can rise above it, sit in the silence of your higher self, and speak words that rewrite your karmic agreement. I release you, Mother, from the prison of my pain. I see you now as a soul, not just a mother. I choose to learn from you, not to suffer through you. May we both be free. These are not mere affirmations. They are spiritual decrees. And when spoken with sincerity, they shift the inner atmosphere of your consciousness. They transform the heaviness in your heart into lightness, the clenched hands of blame into open palms of compassion. And in doing so, they allow the soul of your mother living or departed to respond. For souls are connected beyond the limitations of time and space, and when your heart changes, the vibration of your relationship changes. Sometimes, astonishingly, the mother who once could not speak her love may suddenly begin to soften, or in dreams, you may see her smiling for the first time. But even if the outer form remains unchanged, the inner karma is dissolving. You are no longer reacting from wounds, you are acting from truth. And this is the deepest healing, the final liberation. Not that the past becomes different, but that you are no longer the same. You are no longer held by the chains of a story you did not choose. You have become the author of a new path, guided not by the wounds of the child, but by the wisdom of the soul. Beloved soul, now that you have walked with me through the quiet corridors of karmic understanding, forgiveness, divine awakening, and the rewriting of your soul's story, it is time to seal this sacred journey with a blessing that will echo not only in your heart, but throughout the very fabric of your lineage. For true healing is never yours. Alone it flows backward to ancestors, forward to descendants, and outward to every soul intertwined with yours across lifetimes. Sit now in stillness. Close your eyes and gently straighten your spine, for the spine is the altar where spirit descends and ascends. Take a slow breath in, feeling divine light entering the crown of your head, flowing down like a river of gold through your heart, your abdomen, your legs, and into the earth. With each exhale, release generations of pain and misunderstanding, as though old leaves were being carried away by this golden stream. Now, in the sanctuary of your mind, visualize your mother before you. She may appear as she was in your youth, or as she is now, or even as a radiant soul clothed in light. Do not strain, simply allow her image to arise. See her face, her eyes, perhaps filled with unspoken words. With your heart steady, whisper inwardly, "Mother, I see your soul now. I see beyond human frailty, beyond karmic shadows. I honor the life you gave me, and I release every chain of sorrow between us. May we both be free in God's eternal love." As you repeat this silently, imagine a beam of divine light streaming from your spiritual eye, the point between the eyebrows, toward her heart. This is not imagination, but a subtle energy that truly moves through realms unseen. Watch as this light surrounds her, dissolving old wounds, lifting burdens she may have carried for centuries. Feel her soul responding, even if no words are spoken, as the vibration of reconciliation and divine remembrance fills the space between you. Now, beloved, turn this same light inward to the wounded child within you. See this child, once aching for perfect love, now held in the warm, eternal arms of Divine Mother herself. Feel her whisper into your heart, "Beloved child, you were never unloved. Through every trial, I have carried you. Through every tear, I have counted and comforted you. Today you are healed, for my love has made you whole." Let these words melt the last remnants of sorrow until only peace remains. Finally, lift your consciousness upward to the vast presence of God, Father and Mother of all creation. Offer this prayer aloud or silently. "Beloved Spirit, today I return to you fully. I bless my mother, my lineage, my entire soul family, and I ask that your light heal every thread of karma still binding us. May only love flow between us now and forever. May this healing ripple through time, bringing freedom to every soul connected to mine. I am free, she is free, we are one in you." Remain in this silence for a moment, beloved. Breathe in divine peace. Feel the sacred work completed not by effort of mind, but by the grace of spirit. From this day forward, you walk not as a wounded child seeking what was lost, but as a radiant soul who has found everything in the arms of the infinite Mother. Carry this light into every relationship, every step of your path, And know that your healing is a beacon guiding others, especially the mothers and children yet to awaken, into the same eternal freedom. Many cry, "Why am I still single? Why has love passed me by?" But listen, you are not single because you are forgotten. You are single because you are being chosen. Karma is shaping your life in ways you cannot yet see. And when you understand this, your pain will turn into strength. In this journey, I will reveal why your being single is not a mistake of fate. You will discover the karmic reasons behind your solitude, why certain relationships never came, why some left you, and why others never began. You will learn how to see your singleness not as emptiness, but as a divine classroom preparing you for deeper love, whether in this life or beyond. And you will see that karma does not chain you, it guides you. Once you know this, you will no longer suffer from feelings of rejection. You will stand in the power of understanding that your path has been chosen for your soul's highest good. In this talk, I will share with you the secret reasons behind why you are not single by chance. We will look at the hidden patterns of karma that shape your relationships. I will show you how the bonds of past lives influence the loves of this one, how rejection often hides protection, and how solitude itself is a blessing disguised as loss. Along the way, I will reveal surprising truths that will change the way you see yourself, your past, and your future. Stay with me, for this is not an ordinary talk about relationships. It is a sacred unveiling of your soul's karmic story. And once you understand it, you will never again think of your singleness as an accident, you will see it as destiny. Think about it. How many times have you asked yourself, "Why me? Why am I still alone?" Some believe it is bad luck. Others think it is their fault. Some even wonder if God has forgotten them. But let me tell you, the soul is never forgotten. The truth is that your current state is not random. It is the unfolding of karma lessons written long before you arrived here. And once you see this clearly, your pain will turn into peace. You will realize that your singleness is not an absence of love. It is the seed of a greater love waiting to be revealed. Here's something most people completely miss. Love is not only about chance meetings, chemistry, or timing. It is about karma, cause and effect stretching across lifetimes. When you look at your singleness only through the lens of the present moment, you feel confused, even rejected. But when you look at it through the lens of eternity, you begin to see a pattern. Every relationship you have ever had, and even the lack of relationships, is a fruit ripened from seeds you planted long ago. Some seeds blossom into the union of marriage, some into the brief fragrance of companionship, and some do not blossom outwardly at all but ripen silently inside, preparing you for a deeper harvest that is still to come. Why is this important? Because when you believe that love is random, you suffer. You think, "Why not me? Why has happiness passed me by?" But when you understand the law of karma, the ache of rejection begins to turn into the strength of recognition. You begin to say, "If I am single now, it is because my soul chose this experience, because God is ripening a hidden lesson for me." This changes everything. You no longer blame chance. You no longer feel forgotten. You begin to feel chosen for a sacred preparation. Let me share something from my own experience. In my autobiography of a yogi, I spoke of how past life ties shape present encounters. I saw again and again that souls are drawn together by invisible threads, sometimes for joy, sometimes for suffering, always for growth. The guru meets the disciple because of karmic affinity. Friends and enemies alike appear in your life because of debts owed or gifts given in other times. Even a brief meeting with a stranger at the marketplace can be the repayment of a small karmic account. And, if even fleeting moments are guided, how much more is the great question of love shaped by karma? If you are single, it is not because fate forgot you. It is because your karmic story has written this chapter for your growth. Think of life like a great ledger, balanced by the divine accountant. Every act of love you have given in the past returns to you. Every pain you have caused must also be balanced. Sometimes karma brings two souls together to heal old wounds. Sometimes it holds them apart until the right time, lest they repeat old mistakes. And sometimes, for a season, it withholds partnership entirely, because the lesson to be learned can only be learned in solitude. This is not punishment. It is precision. The law of cause and effect is exact. What you are experiencing now is not random delay but divine timing. Now you may ask, but if karma shapes everything, does that mean I am helpless? Am I bound forever by past mistakes? No. Karma is law, but it is also mercy. The law explains why you are where you are, but mercy shows you how to use it for growth. Every moment of solitude is a chance to plant new seeds, seeds of patience, of devotion, of service that will blossom in this life or in the next. You are not trapped by karma, you are guided by it. It shows you what must be faced now, but it also gives you the freedom to plan a new destiny with every thought and every action. So do not despise your singleness. See it for what it is, a karmic season chosen by your soul before you came here. Just as a farmer rests one field to replenish its fertility, so too does God sometimes rest your heart, allowing it to grow strong in silence before planting the seed of union. And when you look back, you will realize that nothing was wasted, that every moment of solitude was preparing you for love of a higher order, whether human or divine. Transition. And now that you see how karma shapes even the absence of love, let us go deeper into the mystery. Why is it that some souls are irresistibly drawn to you, while others turn away? What invisible currents decide who enters your life and who remains outside the gate? Let us step into that secret. Now let me show you something even more mysterious. Have you ever wondered why certain people seem drawn to you instantly, while others, though you may wish for their love, slip away no matter what you do? You may call it luck, or timing, or personality. But beneath those surfaces, there is a deeper law at work, the vibration of your soul and the karma you carry. Souls move through life like magnets, and magnets do not attract or repel by choice. They do so by natural law. When your vibration harmonizes with another, when karmic debts align for repayment or blessings, the pull is irresistible. And when the vibrations clash, when karmic doors are closed for this life, no matter how much you try to force a connection, it will not hold. This truth explains much of the mystery of human relationships. You think, why does this person, who seems perfect in every way, not respond to my love? Why does another whom I never expected come into my life with such intensity? The answer lies not in outward appearances but in the invisible currents of karma. Some souls are drawn to you because you owe them love from the past. Others come because they owe you. Some come to heal old wounds, some to test your patience, some to awaken your compassion, some simply to pass through for a moment, leaving a mark and then moving on. And if a certain soul is withheld from you, if a relationship dissolves before it begins, it may not be loss, it may be God's protection. For often the souls you think you want most may not be the souls your spirit needs. Think of it like music. Two instruments tuned to the same pitch will resonate together beautifully. But if one is out of tune, the sound becomes harsh, discordant, painful to the ear. In the same way, souls resonate when their vibrations align. Some harmonies are sweet but short, like a single song. Others are symphonies, lasting a lifetime. And some, though you may try to play them together, produce only noise, because the karmic timing is not right. Do not despair when this happens. The divine conductor knows which instruments belong in your life and when. Trust the music of karma, even when you cannot hear the full melody. I saw this many times in my own journey. As I wrote in Autobiography of a Yogi, I met saints and seekers with whom I felt an immediate recognition, as if we had known each other for centuries. This was not imagination. It was the soul remembering its past associations. In the same way, many of you meet people and feel instantly familiar or strangely uncomfortable, though you have only just crossed paths. That familiarity or that discomfort is the vibration of past karma rising to the surface. And here lies your freedom. Though you cannot always control who is drawn to you or who turns away, you can control how you respond. You can choose whether to repay karmic debts with bitterness or with love, whether to endure painful connections with resentment or with patience. Every response you give now is a seed planted for the future. If you respond with wisdom, you purify old debts and create new harmonies. If you respond with anger or attachment, you weave fresh tangles that will return again in another life. So I say to you, do not curse the ones who are drawn to you, and do not chase the ones who turn away. Bless them all, for each is playing the role that karma has written for this chapter of your story. So the mystery is solved. You attract or repel not by chance, not by beauty alone, not by effort or striving, but by the law of vibration and the design of karma. And when you accept this, a great peace comes. You stop blaming yourself, you stop blaming others, and you start trusting the divine wisdom that governs all unions and separations. Transition. And yet, the greatest mystery remains. Why would karma keep you single at all? Why would the divine withhold the sweetness of partnership and ask you to walk in solitude? This may feel like the hardest part to accept, but when you see the hidden gift inside your singleness, your pain will turn into gratitude. Let us open that gift now. What I am about to tell you may seem difficult to accept at first, but if you allow it to settle in your heart, it will transform the way you see your life. Singleness is not emptiness. It is not rejection. It is not proof that something is wrong with you. Singleness is a karmic gift, though it often comes disguised as loss. The very space that feels so bare and silent to you is the space in which God prepares the soil of your soul for a deeper harvest. Most people see solitude as punishment, but in truth, it is preparation. It is the divine teacher giving you a season to strengthen your inner roots, to resolve old debts, and to clear your vision before He sends new souls into your life. You see, if you rushed into union before your heart was ready, before your karma was balanced, you would repeat the same cycles of attachment and pain that kept you bound in the past. God in His mercy sometimes withholds relationships, not because you are forgotten, but because you are being protected. Protection is often disguised as delay. You think you are missing something, when in reality you are being saved from repeating mistakes that would wound your soul. This is the hidden grace of singleness. It is the season when God whispers, "My child, let me teach you to lean first on me. Let me make you strong in my presence, so that when I bring someone into your life, you will not cling to them as your source of joy, but share with them the joy you already carry within." When I was a young boy, before meeting my guru Sri Yukteswar, I longed for the Himalayas with an intensity that consumed my heart. I wanted to leave behind all family ties and dwell in the silence of caves, alone with God. At that time, it seemed like the world did not understand me. I felt the ache of being different, of being pulled away from ordinary attachments. But looking back, I see now that this longing, this solitude, was not rejection, it was preparation. Had I not walked through that season of yearning, I would not have been ready to meet my guru with the total devotion that our bond required. The solitude prepared me to recognize truth when it appeared, and so it is with you. Your singleness is not a barren waiting room, it is a classroom where your soul is learning lessons it could learn no other way. Think of the soil before planting. If a farmer keeps sowing seeds in the same ground without resting it, the soil grows weak, its fertility is drained, and the crops that grow are stunted. But if the farmer lets the field rest for a season, the soil regains its richness. Then, when planting comes again, the harvest is abundant. Your heart is that soil. When God allows a season of singleness, He is restoring your strength, your clarity, your devotion, so that when love comes again, whether in human form or divine union, you will bear fruits far richer than before. So do not despise your solitude. Do not see it as wasted time. Every silent night, every unanswered question, every prayer spoken through tears is adding richness to your soul. It is balancing karmas from the past. It is strengthening your independence, so that when you do unite with another, it will not be out of fear or weakness, but out of fullness. And even if no human partner is sent in this lifetime, know this: you will still be united, for your singleness is drawing you closer to the eternal beloved, whose love no separation can diminish. So I say to you, your singleness is not an accident. It is a gift. It is God's way of saying, I am making you ready for something greater than you can see now. And once you understand this, the ache begins to soften. The ache begins to soften. Questions begin to dissolve, and the silence itself becomes sacred. Transition. And now that we see singleness as a divine gift rather than a curse, let us move forward. The question remains, how can we use this season wisely? How can we transform it from a burden into a stepping stone? The answer lies in the hidden lessons that being single was always meant to teach you. Let us step into those lessons together. Here is a truth that most souls do not recognize until they are placed in the crucible of solitude. Being single is not only about waiting for love, it is about learning to stand on the eternal ground of your own soul. When human companionship is absent, the heart feels empty at first, like a house stripped of furniture. But soon, if you allow the silence to speak, you realize that emptiness was never emptiness at all. It was space being cleared, so that your true foundation could be revealed. This is the lesson of self-sufficiency. It is not pride, it is not cold independence, but the quiet strength of knowing that your joy is not dependent on the shifting moods of others, but on the unchanging presence of God within you. When you depend too much on others for your sense of value, your soul grows weak. You measure yourself by whether you are chosen, by whether someone approves, by whether companionship is available. And when those things are withheld, you collapse. But karma, in its mercy, sometimes gives you singleness so that you may learn a greater strength, the strength of drawing joy from within, rather than begging it from without. At first, this lesson feels harsh, but over time it becomes your greatest freedom. For once you have learned to live from the inner spring, you can enter any relationship without fear of losing yourself. You no longer cling desperately to another soul to complete you, because you know that you are already complete in God. Think of the Himalayan yogis, who for years lived alone in caves, far from the bustle of society. People wondered, how can they survive without the comforts of family, without the warmth of companionship? But those who visited them often came away astonished, for instead of weakness they found radiant strength. Instead of emptiness, they found overflowing joy. Why? Because those yogis had discovered that their source of peace was not in the world but in spirit. Their solitude was their training ground for self-sufficiency. And though you may not live in a cave, your season of singleness is your own Himalayan cave. It is where God is teaching you the same lesson. Learn to find your strength in me. Learn to walk with me first, before you walk with anyone else. You may say, but I am tired of being strong. I want someone to lean on. And yes, the longing for human support is natural. But let me ask you, what happens when that support fails? What happens when the person you lean on falters, or leaves, or cannot carry you? If you have not learned to stand on your own soul, you will collapse with them. But if you have learned the lesson of self-sufficiency, then even if all the world withdraws, you remain steady, because your roots are planted in God. And from that steadiness, you can love others not with neediness, but with freedom. Your love becomes a gift, not a demand. So I tell you, your singleness is not wasted time. It is training time. It is the gymnasium of the soul, where your spiritual muscles are strengthened. Every day you spend learning to rely on God's presence rather than human approval is a day your roots grow deeper, your trunk grows stronger, your branches grow wider. And one day, whether or not another soul walks beside you, you will stand like a great tree, offering shade, fruit, and shelter to all who come near, not because you leaned on them, but because you learned to lean on the infinite. Transition. And once this lesson of self-sufficiency begins to take root, another hidden purpose of singleness is revealed. For many souls, solitude is not only about learning strength, it is about breaking cycles of attachment that have bound you for lifetimes. Let us look at how karma uses singleness as the great interrupter of old patterns. There is another hidden reason why karma sometimes holds you in the season of singleness, and it is a reason that reaches deep into the story of your soul. You are being given the chance to break patterns that have bound you across lifetimes. You see, relationships are not only places of joy, they are also the stage where attachments and illusions weave their strongest nets. Again and again, the soul returns to the same entanglements, chasing pleasure, clinging to people, repeating the same mistakes in slightly different forms. Karma, in its great wisdom, sometimes says, enough. It is time to pause. It is time to break the cycle. And so you find yourself single, not as punishment, but as liberation. Solitude becomes the knife that cuts the old cords, the silence that untangles the threads of attachment, the pause that breaks the rhythm of endless repetition. Think of how a chain is broken. You do not need to smash every single link. You only need to break one, and the whole pattern collapses. In the same way, your present singleness may be the breaking of a karmic chain that has repeated itself across many lives. Perhaps you always gave yourself away too quickly, mistaking attachment for love. Perhaps you clung to others out of fear of abandonment, recreating the very abandonment you feared. Perhaps you confused passion with devotion, and so your relationships burned bright but left only ashes. Now karma has stepped in and said, my child, pause. Sit with me alone. Let us break this cycle so that you may walk free. It may feel painful, but it is an act of divine mercy. This is why some relationships fall away no matter how much you try to hold them. It is not that you are unworthy. It is that the karmic lesson has been completed, and to cling beyond its time would only deepen the chain. When someone leaves, or when love never begins, do not always think you have failed. Often it means the cycle is ending, and the soul is being prepared for a new rhythm, a higher melody. You may not see it now, but one day you will look back and thank God for the times He did not give you what you wanted, because he was giving you what you truly needed, freedom. I too have seen this in the lives of seekers who came to me. Many would ask, why has this person left me? Why do I keep facing the same heartbreak? And I would tell them, perhaps this heartbreak is the closing of a debt. Perhaps it is the severing of a tie that has held you bound. Do not reopen the wound. Let the cord be cut so that you may walk lighter. You see, karma is always just, but it is also merciful. It allows us to suffer only as long as suffering teaches us. And when the lesson is learned, it withdraws the old patterns so that the soul may begin anew. This is the gift of singleness. It gives you space to see clearly what you could not see when entangled. In solitude, you can ask, what patterns have I repeated? What attachments have controlled me? What illusions have I mistaken for love? And in that honest reflection, the old cycles begin to loosen. The soul breathes again. And when you step forward into future relationships, if they come, you will not enter them as a prisoner of the past, but as a free soul, able to love without chains, to give without fear, to receive without desperation. So do not despise the cutting of attachments. Though it feels like loss, it is freedom. Though it feels like emptiness, it is space for new growth. Though it feels like death, it is rebirth. Karma has not abandoned you, it has rescued you. And when you embrace this truth, your singleness becomes not a wound, but a healing, not a punishment, but a gift. Transition. And once the chains of attachment are broken, once the soul breathes freely in its solitude, another lesson rises to the surface. Perhaps the most precious of all, that singleness is not merely the absence of human love, it is the opening to divine love. Let us now step into the hidden honeymoon of the solitary soul, devotion. There is a secret treasure hidden within singleness that few recognize until the silence has ripened into sweetness. Solitude is the soul's honeymoon with God. When human companionship is absent, the heart at first aches, searching for love in every corner. But if the soul endures, if it resists the temptation to numb itself with shallow distractions, then a miracle occurs. The longing that once reached outward begins to turn upward. The cry for human arms becomes a cry for the embrace of the eternal. This is devotion, the turning of the heart wholly toward God, and it is perhaps the greatest blessing that karma can bestow through the season of singleness. Understand this clearly. Devotion is not a duty forced upon you. It is not dry ritual or empty recitation. Devotion is love in its purest form, awakened when all lesser loves have failed to satisfy. As long as human companionship fills the days, the soul rarely feels this longing in its full intensity. But when those companions are absent, when you feel alone in the quiet hours of the night, the hunger for love cannot be silenced. And if you let it, that hunger becomes the very bridge to the divine. Instead of saying, I have no one, you begin to say, I have God. And that realization floods the heart with a joy no earthly love can match. Consider the life of Mirabai, the princess of Rajasthan. She could have had every comfort, every luxury, every companionship. But her soul longed for only one thing: union with Krishna. Forsaking the palace, she walked the solitary path of devotion. People called her mad, accused her of rebellion, misunderstood her love, but she was intoxicated with a higher wine. Alone, she sang songs that still echo centuries later, songs of yearning so intense that they burned through the veils of Maya and drew countless souls toward the divine. Her solitude became her sanctuary, and her devotion became her eternal marriage. What seemed to the world like loneliness was in fact the sweetest union. And this, beloved, is what your singleness is offering you. It is your chance to fall in love with God, to sit in silence and speak to Him as your beloved, to pour out your heart in prayer, not as a ritual but as a conversation with the one who has never left your side. At first, it may feel awkward. You may sit in silence and hear only your own thoughts. But persist. Knock on the door again and again. Speak, even when you hear no reply. Cry, even when you feel no embrace. Sing, even when your voice trembles. For I promise you, one day the silence will answer back. It may not be with words, but you will feel it in your heart as an overwhelming peace, as a joy that bubbles up without cause, as a presence so tender that it fills every emptiness. That is God's love. That is devotion awakened. And here is the beauty. Once this devotion takes root, every other relationship in your life changes. You no longer enter love from desperation, because your heart is already full. You no longer cling with fear, because you know you are held eternally. You no longer demand that others complete you, because you have discovered your completeness in God. And so, any human love that comes becomes sweeter, freer, less bound by chains of need. It becomes a reflection of the divine love you already carry, rather than a substitute for it. So do not fear your solitude. Let it drive you deeper into devotion. Let the nights that feel empty become your altar. Let the tears that fall in silence become your prayer. Let the longing that aches within you become your song to the eternal beloved. For in this way, what felt like absence becomes presence, what felt like punishment becomes blessing, and what felt like singleness becomes marriage to the infinite. Transition. And once the heart has discovered this treasure of devotion, something else begins to awaken clarity. For in the silence of divine love, illusions fall away, and the soul begins to see life as it truly island. Let us now look at the vision that solitude sharpens, the clarity that prepares you for whatever karma still holds in store. When devotion has begun to blossom in solitude, when the heart has tasted the sweetness of the eternal beloved, a new power quietly awakens within the soul, the power of clear vision. Most people go through life peering through fogged glass. Their judgments are blurred by desire, their choices are swayed by fear, their vision is distorted by the opinions of others. And so, they stumble from one entanglement to another, never understanding why the same mistakes repeat themselves. But the solitary soul, stripped of distraction, purified by longing, begins to see with eyes unclouded. What once seemed confusing becomes simple. What once felt like chaos reveals itself as order. This is the clarity that singleness was designed to bring, the ability to see life as it truly is, not as you wish it to be. Have you noticed how relationships, while beautiful, often cloud discernment? When you are deeply entangled in another's emotions, your vision bends to theirs. You excuse behaviors that hurt you. You ignore truths that whisper to you. You follow paths that you know are not right, simply to preserve a bond. But when you are alone, the fog begins to lift. Without the weight of another's expectations, you can ask yourself, what do I truly value? What is truly right for my soul? Where is my life leading me? And in that silence, you hear answers that were drowned out before. You see patterns that once hid in plain sight. You realize that what you thought was love may have been fear, that what you thought was rejection may have been protection, that what you thought was delay may actually be divine timing. This is the gift of clarity, and it can only be discovered in the still waters of solitude. Think of a lake. When the wind stirs its surface, the water ripples, and the reflection of the sky becomes distorted. You cannot see clearly into its depths. But when the wind ceases, when the surface becomes still, suddenly the sky is mirrored perfectly, and the depths of the water are revealed. Your soul is that lake. In the noise of constant companionship, in the winds of desire and attachment, the surface ripples endlessly. But when God grants you solitude, He is calming the winds. And in that stillness, you see both the heavens reflected above and the depths revealed below. You see your divine potential and your hidden shadows. You see what must be embraced and what must be released. And with that vision, your steps grow sure. Saint Teresa of Avila once spoke of how the hours of solitary prayer gave her visions so luminous that they became her guiding compass for life. Alone in her cell, she saw truths that shaped the reform of her order and the awakening of countless souls. Her solitude sharpened her sight. And though your visions may not come with angels or luminous ecstasies, you too will find that in silence, your decisions grow clearer, your path grows straighter, and your life aligns more fully with the will of God. So when you feel frustrated with your singleness, ask yourself, what is God trying to show me here that I could not see otherwise? What clarity is He offering me now, in the silence of my own company, that I might miss in the noise of companionship? And then listen. Watch. Pay attention to the subtle guidance that comes not always in thunder, but often in whispers, in sudden peace, in small illuminations that guide your steps one by one. And once this clarity has been given, you will never again fear solitude. You will cherish it, for you will know that it is in silence that the eyes of the soul are cleansed. And with those cleansed eyes, you will not stumble as before. You will walk with certainty, with discernment, with strength. Transition. And now, beloved one, having seen how solitude teaches self-sufficiency, how it breaks the chains of attachment, how it awakens devotion, and how it sharpens clarity, we must prepare for the next part of this journey. For though these lessons are precious, solitude is not without obstacles. Let us turn now to the trials of the solitary path, and see how even in the ache, the criticism, and the doubts, karma is shaping you for triumph. Before the blossoms of strength, devotion, and clarity fully open, the solitary soul must pass through a valley that feels unbearably long and unbearably dark. The valley of loneliness. This ache is one of the most common and one of the most misunderstood experiences on the path of singleness. When the days stretch empty and the nights echo with silence, the heart cries out, "Why am I alone? Has life forgotten me? Has God turned away from me?" And the pain of this question can be sharper than the absence itself. Many souls, unable to bear the weight of loneliness, run back into the arms of distraction, into shallow attachments, into anything that fills the silence for a moment. But the wise soul, the courageous soul, endures the ache and asks, "What is this pain trying to teach me?" Here is what I have discovered. Loneliness is not proof that something is wrong with you. It is proof that something is awakening within you. Just as hunger tells you that the body longs for food, loneliness tells you that the soul longs for deeper love. And not just human love though, that too has its place, but the eternal love of the divine. Without loneliness, most souls would never seek God. Without the sting of emptiness, few would ever leave the shallow wells of the world to search for the inexhaustible spring. So loneliness, though painful, is a sacred messenger. It is the ache that drives you inward and upward. It is the fire that burns away illusions so that the soul may find the one beloved who never leaves. I remember in my own childhood, after the passing of my mother, how an unbearable emptiness took hold of me. It was as if a light had gone out of my life. I wept, I wandered, I searched for a comfort I could not find in human arms. And yet, that grief became the very thing that pushed me to seek God with a longing I might never have known otherwise. The loss carved an emptiness that only the infinite could fill. And when he did, when I felt his presence flooding the chamber of my heart, I understood that my loneliness had been not a curse but a calling. Think of a shell lying empty on the shore. To the casual eye it looks lifeless, useless, discarded. But to the hermit crab seeking a home, that emptiness is perfect. In the same way, the empty spaces in your life, the loneliness that feels unbearable, may be the very vessel God is preparing for his presence to dwell in. Do not despise the hollow places, for they are sacred. They are the spaces where the eternal seeks to move in. Of course, this does not mean loneliness feels sweet while you endure it. The nights may still be heavy, the silence may still weigh upon you, but know that endurance is itself the alchemy. By refusing to escape into false comforts, you allow the ache to purify your heart. Slowly, the sharpness softens. Slowly, the silence becomes less frightening. Slowly, what was once a wound becomes a doorway. And one day, you will sit alone in the same silence that once tormented you, and instead of pain, you will feel peace. Instead of emptiness, you will feel presence. That is the miracle of loneliness transformed. So when you feel the ache rising, do not run from it. Sit with it. Speak to God in it. Say, "Beloved, I feel alone. Show me that you are here." And though the answer may not come at once, if you persevere, it will come. And when it does, you will know that the ache of loneliness was never your enemy. It was your teacher, your guide, your hidden blessing. Transition. But loneliness is not the only trial of solitude. Once you begin to walk this path with growing strength, you will discover another obstacle: the voices of others, the criticism of the crowd who cannot understand why you are walking differently. Let us turn now to that challenge and see how even the judgment of others can become a step on your path to freedom. When the soul begins to grow stronger in solitude, when the woman walking alone starts to stand with a quiet dignity that does not depend on the approval of others, another trial often appears, and it comes not from within but from without: the criticism of the crowd. Society has a strange way of punishing those who refuse to conform. As long as you walk the same path as everyone else, seeking the same distractions, chasing the same illusions, bending to the same fears, you are left undisturbed. But the moment you step aside, the moment you begin to walk alone in search of something higher, the voices rise. They say, "Why are you different? Why do you not follow as we do? Who do you think you are to separate yourself?" And though the words may come wrapped in concern, though they may sound like advice or even affection, beneath them is often something else: fear. The crowd fears the one who does not need it, for her independence is a mirror that exposes their dependence. Think of this: a bird that learns to fly from the flock is often accused of pride, when in truth it is simply obeying its nature. The same happens to the solitary soul. Others may say, "You are selfish for being alone. You are wasting your life. You are strange for not chasing love." But what they really mean is, "You remind us of the freedom we are too afraid to seek." And so, their criticism is not about you, it is about them. Their unease is stirred by your courage. Their mockery is a defense against their own longing. And if you see this clearly, you will no longer take their words as wounds but as proof that your path is real. Remember the lives of the great ones. Jesus withdrew into the wilderness to pray, and when he returned with power, many accused him of madness, of rebellion, of blasphemy. The Buddha left his palace, forsaking his family and kingdom to sit alone under the Bodhi tree, and his choice was ridiculed by those who could not understand. Saints and prophets across the ages have faced the laughter, suspicion, and judgment of society. But history remembers not the crowd, it remembers the solitary ones who dared to stand apart. Why? Because their independence revealed truths that the crowd could not see, and their perseverance gave birth to wisdom that still guides us today. You too will feel this in your life. Perhaps family members tell you that something is wrong with you because you are not married yet. Perhaps friends whisper behind your back, wondering why you choose silence over noise, devotion over distraction. Perhaps colleagues pity you, thinking your life is incomplete without a partner. These voices sting because every soul longs to be understood. But understand this, their words do not define you. They are simply the echoes of a world that does not yet see what you are becoming. The criticism you endure is the confirmation that you are breaking free from conformity. If you were still asleep in the same dream as others, they would not notice you. The fact that they do notice is proof that you are awakening. Do not fight the criticism, and do not be crushed by it. Meet it with calmness. Let your peace be your answer. Let your devotion be your reply. In time, those who mock you may come to you for guidance, just as those who doubted the saints later bowed before their wisdom. Even if they never do, know that the only approval worth having is the approval of the divine. When God smiles upon your solitude, no frown of man can undo it. So I tell you, when you face the criticism of others, do not despair. Let it strengthen your resolve. Let it polish your courage. Let it remind you that you are not walking an ordinary road. And when the voices grow loud, return to the silence and hear the only voice that matters, the voice of God saying, "My child, walk with me. Fear not the crowd. Fear only to forget me." Transition. Yet even if you survive the criticism of others, there remains an even subtler obstacle, the voice not outside you, but inside you. For the crowd may mock you once or twice, but the mind whispers every day, and its whispers are of doubt. Let us turn now to that hidden battlefield within, where the soul must learn to silence its own questioning heart. Perhaps the greatest obstacle on the solitary path is not the ache of loneliness, nor the sting of criticism, but the whisper that rises quietly within the whisper of doubt. Loneliness hurts, but you can endure it. Criticism wounds, but you can dismiss it. Doubt, however, sneaks in unseen, curling around your thoughts like a fog, dimming your faith until even the strongest heart begins to question. It does not shout, it whispers. And its whispers are sly. What if I am wrong? What if my life is passing me by? What if I will never know love? What if my devotion is wasted on silence? What if God is not listening? These questions may sound reasonable, but they are poisoned with discouragement. They are Maya's subtlest weapon, more dangerous than pain, more corrosive than ridicule, because they attack not the body nor the reputation, but the very foundation of your conviction. I have seen this battle in many seekers. They begin with strength, full of zeal, determined to walk with God alone if need be. But when the months stretch into years, when prayers seem unanswered, when others around them appear to move forward in family and companionship, the mind begins to tremble. The voice inside says, "Maybe you were foolish to trust this path. Maybe you should give up. Maybe you should run back to the crowd." And many do. They abandon the silence, they compromise their devotion, they bury their longing in distractions. Yet the longing never truly dies, it only hides, waiting for another lifetime to rise again. This is why doubt must be faced and overcome, not avoided. But here is the truth. Doubt, though fierce, has no substance. It is a cloud that covers the sun but cannot destroy it. It can make you forget the light for a moment, but the light shines on regardless. And if you hold steady, if you refuse to surrender, the cloud will pass. Faith is the wind that clears the sky. And how is faith cultivated? Not by wishful thinking, not by forcing yourself to feel certain, but by practice. Every time you sit in meditation, even when you feel nothing, you are declaring faith. Every time you pray, even when you hear no answer, you are declaring faith. Every time you keep walking when doubt whispers, "Turn back," you are declaring faith. And each act of persistence weakens doubt's grip, until one day you realize that its whispers no longer frighten you. The Bhagavad Gita speaks of this battle. Arjuna, standing on the field of Dharma, trembled with doubt. He dropped his bow, his courage failed, his heart was confused. He said to Krishna, "I do not know what is right. My mind is overcome with weakness." But Krishna did not pity him. With calm strength, he said, "Shake off this faint-heartedness, O Arjuna. Rise and stand firm in your duty." This is what God says to every soul drowning in doubt. Rise. Stand firm. Do not be deceived by shadows. The truth is still shining, even when you cannot see it. I too have felt doubt in my journey. There were moments when the path seemed long, when the demands of God's work in the West seemed greater than my human strength. The mind whispered, "Can you really do this? Are you truly chosen for this mission?" But every time I turned inward, every time I knelt in prayer, I felt again the reassurance of the divine, steady and unchanging. The doubts came like waves, but beneath them the ocean of truth was unmoved. That ocean is in you as well. Beneath the surface ripples of doubt lies the calm certainty of the soul. So when doubt whispers in your mind, do not argue with it and do not obey it. Let it speak, but do not bow. Return to your practices. Sit in silence. Meditate. Pray. Trust that the cloud will pass and the sun will break through. And when it does, your faith will be stronger, for it has been tested. The woman who conquers doubt conquers the last and greatest enemy of the solitary path. For once you have silenced the voice within, no voice outside can shake you. Transition. And when the soul has walked through loneliness, endured criticism, and conquered doubt, she discovers something extraordinary. Solitude is no longer a burden but a crown. What once seemed like exile blossoms into triumph. What once felt like emptiness overflows with light. Let us now turn to this blossoming and see how karma transforms the solitary woman into a radiant bearer of love and strength. And now, beloved soul, having walked through the shadowed valleys of loneliness, having endured the sharp sting of criticism, and having faced the serpent whisper of doubt, you begin to realize something you could never have seen at the beginning. These obstacles were never placed in your path to defeat you. They were placed there to refine you. Loneliness stripped away the illusion that human company alone can satisfy the heart. Criticism stripped away the false need for approval from the crowd. Doubt stripped away the shallow layers of belief so that a deeper, stronger faith could be born. Each trial, though painful, has worked secretly like the chisel in the hand of the master sculptor, cutting away what is not essential, polishing what is eternal, shaping the rough stone of your life into the radiant form of your soul. It is like the seed buried in the dark soil. At first, it seems forsaken, pressed down, suffocated by earth. Yet in that burial the miracle begins. The hard shell softens, cracks, breaks open. To the seed it feels like death, but to the farmer it is the first sign of life. And from that breaking comes the green shoot, pushing upward through the very weight that once pressed it down. So it is with you. The loneliness, the criticism, the doubts, they were the soil. They were the pressure that cracked open the shell of your old self so that the new life could emerge. What felt like an ending was in truth a beginning. This is the turning point of the solitary path, the place where trials begin to blossom into triumph. You start to see that your solitude has not diminished you, it has deepened you. It has not silenced you, it has tuned you. It has not broken you, it has revealed a strength you did not know you carried. And now the fragrance of this hidden blossoming begins to fill your life. You begin to love differently, with more purity. You begin to see more clearly, with more discernment. You begin to walk more steadily, with more freedom. The woman who once felt forsaken now realizes she has been chosen, not for punishment but for preparation, not for abandonment but for awakening. So do not despise the obstacles. Bless them, thank them, for they were the gates you had to pass through in order to reach the garden. And now the gates are behind you, and before you lies the blossoming field of the divine feminine soul, radiant with flowers of devotion, compassion, self-mastery, and magnetism. These blossoms are not fragile, they are born from struggle, rooted in strength, watered by tears, and kissed by the sunlight of God's presence. They are eternal flowers, and they are yours. Transition. Let us step together now into that garden, into the next great revelation of the solitary path, not the obstacles, but the blossoming. For solitude, embraced with courage and guided by karma, does not end in emptiness. It ends in radiance. It ends in the soul's flowering into the fullness of its divine destiny. Loneliness, which once felt like a heavy stone pressing down on your chest, begins slowly to change when it is endured with faith. What once brought tears now begins to bring a strange sweetness. The same silence that once felt unbearable starts to feel alive, warm, filled with an unseen presence. This is the great transformation of karma, that the very thing which appeared as your greatest curse becomes your greatest blessing. Loneliness is not meant to remain loneliness forever. It is meant to be transfigured into love. And not the fragile love that trembles at rejection, nor the conditional love that demands constant reassurance, but the pure and indestructible love of the soul for God and God for the soul. At first, you resist the silence. You long for voices, for touch, for companionship to fill the emptiness. But gradually, as you sit with the ache, you begin to feel another presence moving through the stillness, subtle but unmistakable. You realize you are not alone at all. You are in the company of the eternal beloved, who had been waiting patiently for your attention. The loneliness, it turns out, was not abandonment but invitation. It was the beloved knocking on the door of your heart, saying, "Turn to me, look to me, I am here." And when you respond, when you open that door, the silence that once tormented you becomes saturated with love so tender, so steady, so endless, that you wonder how you ever mistook it for emptiness. Consider how many great lovers of God were led first through solitude. Mirabai was widowed young and abandoned by society, yet in her solitude her heart found Krishna as her eternal spouse. Teresa of Avila endured misunderstanding and illness, but in her long hours of solitary prayer, she discovered the ecstasies of union with Christ. Even in my own journey, there were countless nights when I longed only for God, when the world seemed far away and only the inner presence sustained me. These were not wasted nights, they were the sweetest of my life, for they unveiled a love no earthly companionship could rival. When loneliness becomes love, everything changes. You begin to see people differently. You no longer approach them as someone starving, begging for scraps of affection. You approach them as one already full, overflowing, ready to give rather than to take. Your interactions cease to be desperate transactions and become offerings. And because your love no longer clings, it no longer breeds fear. You can love freely, knowing that even if others walk away, you remain whole. This is the freedom that blossoms when solitude has ripened into devotion. Do not think this transformation is beyond you. It is not reserved for saints alone. It is the destiny of every soul who endures the silence with patience. Begin simply. When you feel the ache of loneliness, instead of rushing to fill it with distractions, sit quietly. Place your hand over your heart. Speak to God as though He were sitting across from you for He island. Tell Him your longings, your frustrations, your hopes, and then listen. At first you may hear only silence, but if you persist, you will begin to feel His answer not in words but in a calmness, a sweetness, a warmth that grows within. That warmth is love. That is the transformation already beginning. So I tell you, the karmic gift of your singleness is not the ache of loneliness, it is the birth of divine love. Let the ache become the doorway. Let the silence become the temple. Let the solitude become the bridal chamber of your soul. And when you do, you will realize that you were never alone, that the beloved has always been with you, waiting for this very moment of awakening. Transition. And as loneliness blossoms into divine love, another flower opens in the garden of solitude, the awakening of compassion. For when the heart is filled with God's presence, it naturally begins to reflect His tender aspect as mother, embracing all beings as its own children. Let us now turn to this sacred blossoming of the feminine soul. When the ache of loneliness has been softened into the sweetness of devotion, when the solitary soul has discovered that in silence she is never alone but always in the company of the eternal beloved, then another mystery begins to unfold, one of the most beautiful blossoms of the spiritual path. The heart, once so small and confined to personal longings, begins to widen. The love that once cried for one companion, for one hand to hold, begins to overflow its boundaries. It stretches outward, reaching not only for the divine above, but for every soul below. And in this expansion, the solitary woman awakens to her true nature as a reflection of the Divine Mother herself. The Divine Mother is the most tender aspect of God, the comforter, the nourisher, the ever-forgiving presence. She is the womb of the universe, holding all creation in her embrace. When solitude deepens, the feminine soul begins to feel this vast compassion welling up inside her. She no longer looks only at her own sorrows. Her tears mingle with the tears of humanity. Her prayers no longer rise only for her own needs, but for the cries of strangers, for the suffering of nations, for the brokenness of a world longing for love. What once was a narrow stream of affection becomes a mighty river of compassion, flowing without discrimination, without limit, without demand for return. This awakening is not sentimentality, it is strength. For to feel the pain of others and yet remain unshaken, to embrace the world's wounds without collapsing into despair, requires a heart that has already found its anchor in God. Only then can the love of the Divine Mother flow freely through her. This is why the season of singleness is so sacred. It gives the soul the stillness, the clarity, the depth required for this vast love to take root. The woman who once wept over her own emptiness now becomes a source of comfort to others, because she has discovered the inexhaustible well of compassion inside herself. Think of Anandamayi Ma, the great woman saint of India. She was not bound by marriage or family in the usual sense, yet her heart became the home of thousands. People flocked to her, not because she promised worldly success, but because they felt in her presence the very love of the Divine Mother. She laughed with them, wept with them, soothed their fears, and carried their burdens. She was not their relative by blood, but all who came to her felt she was their true mother. This is what it means to awaken the Divine Mother energy, to become a living channel of God's infinite tenderness in the world. And you too, beloved one, are capable of this awakening. It does not require renouncing the world or becoming a saint known to many. It requires only that you open your heart in solitude, that you allow your longing to be transformed into compassion. Begin by noticing the small stirrings within you, the way your heart aches when you hear of suffering, the way your eyes well up when you see another's pain. Do not dismiss these as weakness. They are the first signs of the Divine Mother stirring in you. If you nurture them with prayer, with service, with meditation, they will grow into a love so vast that you will begin to feel that all beings are your children. And what greater purpose could there be than this? To become a mother not only to your own family, but to humanity itself. To live as a reminder of God's maternal heart in a world so often harsh and unforgiving. To radiate a tenderness that softens anger, heals wounds, and draws even the most lost souls back toward the light. This is the blossoming that solitude prepares in you, the unveiling of the Divine Mother's energy through your own heart. So do not curse your singleness. See it for what it is, the sacred space in which God is teaching you to love as He loves, to mother as she mothers, to embrace the universe as your own family. This is not the loss of feminine power, it is its fulfillment. The solitary woman becomes not diminished but expanded, not barren but fertile with compassion, not lonely but pregnant with the love of the Divine Mother for all creation. Transition. And once this compassion has taken root, another fruit appears on the tree of solitude, the joy of self-mastery. For to love all with such vast tenderness requires discipline as well as devotion. And in the training ground of singleness, the soul learns that freedom is not found in indulgence, but in mastery of the self. Let us turn now to this crown of blossoming, the joy of self-mastery. When the river of compassion begins to flow, when the heart has expanded to embrace not only its own sorrows but the sorrows of all, there comes another gift of solitude, one that shines with a quieter but no less powerful radiance, the joy of self-mastery. Many misunderstand freedom. They think it means the license to do whatever one pleases, to follow every impulse, to indulge every craving. But anyone who has walked that path knows it leads not to freedom but to bondage. Every indulgence strengthens the chain of habit. Every surrender to desire deepens the rut of compulsion. Soon the soul that cried for liberty finds itself enslaved to passions, to appetites, to restless cravings that never satisfy. True freedom is not indulgence. True freedom is mastery. And this is the lesson solitude was designed to teach. In singleness, when the noise of constant companionship is absent, you begin to notice the movements of your own heart more clearly. You see the rise of desires, the flicker of impulses, the sway of moods. With no one else to distract you, you are faced with yourself. At first, this can be uncomfortable, even frightening. But if you persist, you realize this confrontation is your great opportunity. Here in solitude you can learn to master yourself not with harsh repression, but with gentle awareness and divine strength. You learn to say, "This thought serves me. This thought does not." You learn to pause before every impulse and ask, "Will this action lead me closer to God or further away?" And in that pause, in that clarity, lies your freedom. The joy of self-mastery is unlike any other joy. It is deeper than pleasure, steadier than excitement, freer than indulgence. It is the joy of knowing that nothing controls you except the truth of your soul. When anger rises, you can choose peace. When desire burns, you can choose purity. When fear trembles, you can choose faith. This ability to choose, to direct, to govern yourself, fills the heart with a strength that no outer circumstance can shake. And from this strength arises joy, the joy of being the master of your own life, rather than the servant of your cravings. I saw this exemplified in my guru, Sri Yukteswar. He lived simply, ate sparingly, spoke little, demanded much discipline from himself and his disciples. To some, his sternness seemed forbidding, but behind that discipline was a radiant joy. His mastery over himself gave him an authority that no one could resist, and yet it was not the authority of domination, but of harmony. He had no chains binding him, and so his very presence inspired freedom in others. This is the fruit of self-mastery. It is not grim self-denial but radiant liberty. And this, too, is the gift of your singleness. In the absence of constant distraction, you are given the chance to cultivate mastery. Do not despise this training ground. Use it. Watch yourself. Learn to govern your mind, your emotions, your habits. Practice meditation to discipline your thoughts. Practice prayer to channel your desires upward. Practice kindness to discipline your words. Each small act of mastery is a stone laid in the foundation of your freedom. And as the foundation strengthens, the house of your life becomes unshakable. So I say to you, rejoice in this season. It is teaching you the joy of self-mastery. And once you have tasted this joy, you will never again confuse freedom with indulgence. You will know that true liberty is the power to live in alignment with your highest self. And in that liberty, your soul will shine with a joy that no circumstance, no loss, no rejection can dim. Transition. And as mastery deepens, another power quietly awakens the magnetism of the soul. For the woman who governs herself radiates a presence that draws others without effort. Her solitude, once seen as weakness, becomes the very source of an attraction more powerful than beauty, more lasting than charm. Let us now enter into this final blossoming, the hidden magnetism born of the solitary path. When the soul has passed through the trials of solitude, when loneliness has been transfigured into devotion, when compassion has widened the heart to embrace all, when self-mastery has steadied the will, then something wondrous begins to radiate, an invisible force more compelling than any outward beauty, more enduring than any charm of personality. This force is the magnetism of the soul. It is not learned, it is not fabricated, it is not the result of clever words or cultivated gestures. It flows naturally from the depth of inner harmony. Just as a flower releases fragrance without effort, just as the sun shines without strain, so does the soul in tune with God radiate a presence that draws others. People may not be able to explain why they feel at peace in your company, why they trust you, why they are lifted when you speak, but they feel it. It is magnetism, the silent sermon of the soul. This magnetism is born of communion with the infinite. When you spend time in silence, when you cultivate devotion, when you discipline your mind and heart, your very vibration begins to change. The restless energy that once scattered outward becomes calm and centered, and calmness is power. It is the throne of feminine strength. In that calmness, people feel safe, they feel seen, they feel touched by something greater than themselves. You do not need to impress them, you do not need to chase them. The very atmosphere around you speaks for you. This is why some souls, even if they live quietly, become beacons. Their lives are messages. Their presence is prayer. I experienced this power in the presence of my Param Guru, Lahiri Mahasaya. He lived simply, working as a householder, with no outward signs of fame or authority. Yet seekers flocked to him. Scholars, saints, even kings came, drawn not by advertisement or persuasion, but by the silent magnetism of his soul. He had touched God, and God's vibration flowed through him. People who entered his presence felt uplifted, even if no words were spoken. That is the true attraction, the radiance of the soul. And such magnetism, once awakened, cannot be hidden. It shines through the eyes, through the voice, through every gesture. This is the secret, beloved. Outward beauty fades, charm is fleeting, but soul magnetism grows stronger with time. It is the one attraction that cannot be diminished by age or circumstance. The solitary woman, who once felt invisible in her singleness, may one day find that people are inexplicably drawn to her not because of outward status, but because of the peace she radiates, the love she embodies, the mastery she exudes. Even strangers may feel it in passing and carry away a blessing they cannot name. This is the gift of solitude fully blossomed. It makes you magnetic, not through effort, but through essence. And here lies another hidden purpose of your singleness. God is preparing you to radiate this magnetism. He is polishing you in silence, tuning your vibration, deepening your calm, so that when you step into the world, you will carry an influence that words alone could never achieve. Do not despise the hidden years, for they are the years of magnetization. And once this power awakens, it will serve not only you, but all who cross your path. So I tell you, let the world chase outer attractions. You, instead, cultivate inner harmony. Let the world exhaust itself with shallow displays. You, instead, rest in stillness. For the woman who walks alone with God becomes a flame unseen yet felt, a fragrance unnoticed yet unforgettable, a light that shines without announcing itself. This is the magnetism of the soul, the crowning blossom of the solitary path. Transition. And once this magnetism has been awakened, the solitary journey comes to its final revelation. For what is the purpose of this radiance, this peace, this blossoming? It is not for the self alone, but to be poured out in service to others. The solitary soul, filled with love and magnetism, is called to return as a giver, as a guide, as a mother for many. Let us now enter the last garden of this journey, where singleness becomes service, and solitude becomes strength for the world. When the blossoms of solitude have fully unfolded, devotion burning like a lamp, compassion flowing like a river, mastery standing like a mountain, magnetism shining like a hidden sun, the soul begins to feel a new stirring, a new call that rises above personal longing. The woman who once asked, "Why am I alone?" now finds herself asking, "How can I give? How can I serve? How can my strength become shelter for others?" This is the final transformation of karma's gift of singleness. The realization that all the inner growth you have gained was never meant for you alone, but for the blessing of many. At first, your solitude felt like exile. It felt as though you had been shut out of the banquet of life, left hungry while others feasted. But now, after walking through loneliness, criticism, and doubt, after tasting the sweetness of devotion and the strength of mastery, you realize you were not exiled at all, you were being prepared. God was shaping you in silence so that you might carry strength into a world desperate for it. And now, when you look at others who struggle, you see yourself in them. You recognize their hunger, their tears, their doubts, because you have endured the same. And because you endured, you have something to give. Your solitude becomes their comfort. Your peace becomes their hope. Your magnetism becomes their light. This is the hidden law of service. We are trained in private so that we may serve in public. Just as the seed grows unseen beneath the earth before bursting forth into a tree that gives shade and fruit, so too does the solitary soul grow unseen before blossoming into a giver of strength. The tree does not eat its own fruit, nor does it rest in its own shade. It stands for others. And so it is with you. Your season of singleness has made you into a tree planted by God, and now your life is meant to provide shelter, nourishment, and rest for weary souls who pass your way. This does not mean you must serve in grand, dramatic ways. Service is not measured by scale, but by sincerity. Perhaps you lift someone with a kind word spoken when their spirit is low. Perhaps you listen with compassion when no one else has time. Perhaps you offer prayer in silence for a soul you will never meet. These small acts, born of the strength of solitude, ripple outward in ways you cannot imagine. For when a heart has touched God, even its smallest gesture carries His power. Think of the saints who emerged from solitude. The Buddha, after his awakening under the Bodhi tree, could have remained in bliss, but he rose and spent the rest of his life teaching, comforting, and guiding. Christ, after 40 days in the wilderness, returned not to seek safety but to heal the sick, feed the hungry, and awaken hearts. Their solitude became strength, and their strength became service. This is the pattern you too are called to follow. You may not heal nations, but you can heal hearts. You may not teach multitudes, but you can comfort one soul. and to God that is no less precious. So, beloved, do not ask, "What use is my singleness?" Ask instead, "How can I use my singleness?" For the answer is clear: use it to serve, use it to strengthen, use it to be a lamp for those still lost in the night. The karma that kept you single was not punishment, it was training. And now that you have been trained, let your life become a sanctuary for others. Transition. And when this service deepens, the heart makes an even greater discovery: that all beings are your family, that your singleness has broken the narrow walls of attachment and opened the vast house of universal love. Let us now enter this next unfolding, the awakening of the universal family and the solitary soul. As the solitary woman begins to serve, something profound takes place in her heart. She realizes that her love can no longer be confined to a single person, a single circle, or even a single community. The very experience of singleness, what once felt like deprivation, has now stretched her capacity to love until it has become universal. Where once she longed for one hand to hold, she now feels that every hand she touches belongs to her. Where once she wept for her own loneliness, she now weeps for the loneliness of all souls. And where once she sought one companion, she now discovers that she is kin to all beings. This is the awakening of the universal family, the recognition that the solitary heart, when purified by karma, becomes the heart of a mother, a sister, a friend to the entire world. Do you see the paradox? At first, being single felt like having no family, no partner, no one to belong to. But karma's hidden gift was that in losing the narrow bonds, the soul could awaken to the greater bond. Now you begin to see every soul as your relative. The stranger on the street becomes your brother. The child crying in the distance becomes your daughter. The elderly man sitting in silence becomes your grandfather. The world becomes one home, and humanity becomes your family. This is not imagination, it is truth. For behind all forms, behind all differences of race, creed, and culture, there is one spirit flowing, one God living in all. When solitude strips away the illusion of separateness, you begin to feel that spirit everywhere, and it manifests as love for all. I myself once prayed, "O Father, though I walk without wife or children, Thou hast given me a large family. Everywhere I go, I see brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers, children of Thine who are mine also." That prayer was not poetry, it was the recognition of a fact. The soul is not meant to love only narrowly. Narrow love binds, but universal love frees. Narrow love fears loss, but universal love cannot be lost. The solitary woman, trained in the silence of her singleness, awakens to this universal love, and her life becomes a blessing to all who meet her. And this awakening is not reserved for saints in temples or mystics in caves. It can happen to you in the middle of your ordinary life. Begin by expanding your heart in small ways. When you see a stranger, silently bless them. "You are my brother, my sister." When you hear of suffering across the world, instead of turning away, whisper a prayer. "Divine Mother, comfort your children." The more you practice this, the more you will feel your heart expand until it truly embraces the world. And this expansion is not a burden, it is freedom. For the heart that loves all is never empty. It is filled at every moment with the joy of giving. This is the paradox of singleness fulfilled. What once felt like isolation has become universality. What once felt like having no family has become having every soul as family. And what once felt like a loss of love has become the discovery of an inexhaustible well of love flowing through you. So rejoice, beloved, in this awakening. You are not without family, you are the Bara family. You are not without love, you are love. And this is the fruit of karma's design for your singleness, to transform your personal longing into universal belonging. Transition. But there is one more step on this path, one more blossoming that crowns the solitary soul's journey. For when you have discovered universal love, when you have embraced the whole world as family, there arises a sacred vow not to rest until every soul has crossed to the shore of freedom. This is the vow of the boatman, the promise to return again and again to carry others across. Let us now open this final mystery. When the solitary soul has discovered her strength, when she has awakened to the great truth that every being is her family, there arises within her a new longing not for herself, but for others. It is the longing not to escape into freedom alone, but to return again and again until all souls have crossed into the light. This is the highest fruit of solitude, the final blossoming of karma's mysterious gift, the vow of the boatman. It is the sacred promise whispered from the soul to the eternal, saying, Beloved Lord, when I am free, I will not rest in that freedom. I will return, again and again, as long as even one of my brothers or sisters remains behind. I will be the boatman of thy stream, ferrying all who call upon me across the river of sorrow into the shore of joy. You see, solitude purifies you of selfish desire. At first, you may have wanted companionship only to ease your own pain. You may have longed for love only to fill your own emptiness. But as the heart widens and devotion deepens, your perspective changes. You realize that countless souls are still wandering in the darkness you once knew. You remember the ache of loneliness, the sting of criticism, the poison of doubt. You remember how heavy it felt to walk through those shadows. And now that you are free, your heart cannot forget those who still suffer. Compassion will not let you leave them behind. Love will not let you escape alone. And so, you make the vow of the boatman not to hoard freedom, but to share it, not to flee, but to return. I myself made this vow in my deepest communion with God. In the silence of meditation, lifted beyond the confines of the body, soaring in the ecstasy of spirit, I could have dissolved forever into that bliss. Yet I turned back, saying, O Lord, I cannot leave while others weep in ignorance. Send me again and again, as long as there is one soul left adrift. I will return until all have reached thy shore. That promise burned within me then, and it burns within me still. It is the vow that gives meaning to life. For what greater joy can there be than to carry others to the freedom you yourself have tasted? This is the calling that will rise in your own heart when your solitude has ripened. It does not mean you will preach to thousands, though you might. It does not mean you must live in monasteries or ashrams, though you could. It means simply this, that your life becomes a vessel of service, that you choose again and again to be a helper, a guide, a comforter, a bridge for others. Wherever you are, whatever you do, you can live the vow of the boatman. When someone stumbles, lift them. When someone despairs, remind them of light. When someone feels alone, let your presence reassure them. This is ferrying souls across, one by one, moment by moment. And the beauty of this vow is that it gives your singleness its ultimate meaning. No longer do you ask, why was I alone? You see now that you were trained in solitude so that you could return as a servant of many. Your singleness was not exile, it was initiation. It was not a punishment, it was preparation. It made you strong enough to carry others. And now, with the vow of the boatman in your heart, you understand that your story is not about being without love, it is about becoming love, endlessly, tirelessly, eternally. So rejoice, beloved, if God has given you this calling. For to be a boatman is to share in the very work of the divine, to lift, to carry, to comfort, to liberate. And when you embrace this vow, your life becomes part of the great stream of compassion that flows through all the saints, all the masters, all the lovers of God. You become one with their mission, one with their love, one with their vow. Transition. And so, we come to the end of this great unfolding. We have seen how singleness, guided by karma, leads not to emptiness but to blossoming, not to exile but to service, not to loss but to love. Let us now gather all these truths into a final blessing, a closing word to seal the seed of understanding in your heart and to point you toward the next step on your journey. And now, beloved one, having walked together through the secret chambers of solitude, we arrive at the threshold where all the strands of this journey are gathered. Look back with me for a moment and see how far you have come. At the beginning, singleness seemed a wound, a heavy cloak of loneliness wrapped around your shoulders. You felt abandoned, overlooked, perhaps even cursed by fate. But now, as we stand here, we see that this cloak was never a burden at all, it was a robe of initiation, woven by the hands of karma to prepare you for awakening. Loneliness taught you longing. Longing gave birth to devotion. Devotion awakened compassion. Compassion led to self-mastery. Self-mastery blossomed into magnetism. Magnetism overflowed into service. Each stage was necessary. Each ache had its purpose. Each tear watered the seeds of strength that now flower in your heart. This is the hidden wisdom of the solitary path, that what begins in apparent weakness ends in radiant power, that what begins in silence ends in song, that what begins in exile ends in belonging to the entire family of humanity. Your singleness was never meaningless. It was the divine potter shaping the clay of your soul on his wheel, pressing, molding, turning, sometimes breaking, always remaking until at last the vessel was ready to hold the wine of his love, the water of his compassion, the flame of his light. And now you are that vessel. Now you stand not as one who has been deprived, but as one who has been chosen, trained, refined, anointed to carry what others cannot yet carry. So let us not speak any longer of singleness as exile. Let us not whisper of it as emptiness. Let us not curse it as punishment. Instead, let us see it clearly for what it is: a mission, an initiation, a gift. You were not withheld from love, you were expanded into love. You were not denied companionship, you were given universal kinship. You were not left behind, you were sent ahead, so that you could return as a guide, a mother, a sister, a friend to many. This is the destiny of the solitary soul when karma has completed its work. And now, as we stand at this threshold, the question is not, why am I single? The question is, how will I live the gift of my singleness? How will I carry the light I have discovered in solitude into a world still lost in shadow? That is the question that will guide the rest of your path. And in the answer to that question lies the full flowering of your destiny. Transition. And so, beloved one, let us close this journey with a blessing. Let us gather the wisdom of karma, the strength of solitude, and the blossoming of service into a final affirmation for your soul. And then, before we part, let me open one more door, one more mystery, that will carry you into the next chapter of this unfolding truth. And so, beloved soul, we arrive at the end of this great journey together, and yet it is not an end at all but a doorway into a deeper beginning. You began by asking why you were still alone, why companionship had passed you by, why life had written this chapter of solitude upon your heart. The ache was real, the tears were real, the questions burned like fire. But as we have walked together, you have seen that your singleness is not an accident, not a punishment, not the cruelty of fate. It is karma's design, precise and merciful, shaping you for a destiny larger than you imagined. Every loneliness you endured has ripened into longing for God. Every criticism you bore has carved strength into your character. Every doubt you overcame has purified your faith into unshakable clarity. And out of this crucible, blossoms have opened devotion, compassion, mastery, magnetism, service. You are no longer merely a seeker, you are becoming a light. Let this truth settle deeply. You are not single by chance. You are single by choice, by the choice of your soul, by the choice of your karma, by the choice of God who sees further than you see. And that choice has not diminished you. It has expanded you. It has not left you barren. It has made you fertile with wisdom. It has not taken away love. It has opened the well of love within you that no circumstance can dry. What you thought was absence has been presence in disguise. What you thought was delay has been preparation. What you thought was rejection has been protection. And what you thought was loss has been the beginning of your greatest gain. So take this affirmation as your shield and your crown. I am not alone by accident. My solitude is chosen by God. In it, I am being purified, strengthened, and prepared. I embrace this season not as emptiness, but as fullness, not as weakness, but as strength, not as exile, but as initiation. I walk with God, and therefore I am never alone. Speak these words to yourself in moments of doubt. Let them echo in your heart when loneliness whispers. Let them stand before you like a guardian when criticism strikes. Let them be your song when silence surrounds you, for they are true. And now, beloved, though this talk draws to its close, your journey is not complete. There is yet a greater mystery waiting to be unveiled. For have you not noticed how certain souls appear again and again in your life, no matter how far you travel or how many years pass? Have you not wondered why some faces, some names, some bonds seem to follow you across time, as though invisible threads bind you together beyond this one life? Is it chance or is it karma's deeper law at work? This question opens the next door on your path, the next great unveiling of the soul's journey. So do not stop here. Step with me into the next mystery. Click to watch my next teaching, where I will reveal the hidden bonds of karma, the ties that weave souls together across lifetimes, and why certain relationships cannot be escaped until their lesson is learned. If today you discovered that your singleness is not by chance, then tomorrow you will discover why certain companions keep returning to you again and again. The truth will not only answer your questions, it will set you free. Go now with this blessing. May your solitude be transformed into strength. May your longing be transfigured into devotion. May your heart widen into universal love. And may your soul carry the vow of the boatman to serve, to guide, to uplift, until all souls are carried across the river of sorrow into the eternal shore of joy. Have you ever entered a room and felt grief you could not explain? Have you stood at the edge of a forest and wept, though your mind gave you no reason, or passed through a quiet alleyway, a hidden courtyard, a nameless road, and felt as though some ancient part of you had returned? This is not imagination. This is not emotion without cause. This is the whisper of your soul, remembering. There are places in this world that do not belong to time, but to vibration, to memory not of the brain, but of the soul. You have been here before, not just in this life, but in many. And the body may forget, the mind may debate, but the soul carries everything. Every joy, every wound, every vow whispered under a dying sun. You do not always feel it, but sometimes, when the world is quiet enough, your past lives press up against the veil of now, and you feel something. A grief you cannot place, a love that has no object, a fear that makes no sense, or a peace that arrives like a long-lost friend. These are not hallucinations. These are not errors in the matrix of your mind. They are remembrances. They are echoes, vibrational trails, left behind by the eternal traveler that is your soul. Do not dismiss them. Do not turn away in confusion. These are sacred doorways, invitations, clues placed by God in the geography of your life to remind you. You have never been just this body. You are older than you know, wider than your name. You have walked this earth in countless forms in countless ages, and your soul has left footprints on the soil of many worlds. And when you feel something rise in you, deep in your chest or silently behind your eyes, as you stand in certain places, do not say, "What is wrong with me?" Instead ask, "What is waking up in me?" You are not broken, you are remembering. The soul's pain is not a problem, it is a signal. It is the sacred ache of one who has lived, loved, lost, and returned. This is why some temples make you weep. This is why some cities fill you with unexplainable terror. This is why you feel protective of a land you've never visited. Why a foreign sky feels like home. These are not just moods, they are messages. Not from the past, but from your past. From lives your ego cannot recall, but your soul never forgot. And so I ask you now to breathe. Place your hand over your heart and say, "Whatever rises in me, I welcome it. Whatever I feel, I honor it. I am not just remembering, I am returning." You've died before, that is true, but you have also loved before. You have prayed before. You have awakened in other forms, and you have whispered the same prayer across lifetimes. Let me remember who I am. And now, through the mystery of God's grace, through this very teaching, you are being given the chance to remember, to walk again through the inner terrain of past life memory, to see your emotional landscape not as random, but as divinely precise. Let me take you deeper. You are not this fleeting name, nor the skin you wear, nor the story you defend. You are not the child of circumstance or the victim of time. You are the soul, ever ancient, ever new, sent into matter to awaken, to evolve, to remember the truth that has never changed. You are of God. You are not from here. You are only passing through. The soul was never born, and it shall never die. These bodies come and go like garments worn and cast aside. But the soul, immortal, luminous, ever conscious, continues on its sacred pilgrimage from lifetime to lifetime. Each birth a page in a divine book. Each death a comma in an unending sentence. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord declares, "Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor these kings, nor will there ever be a time when any of us cease to be." Such is the eternal nature of your being, and though you wear this form now, it is but one of many you have donned. You have lived as mother and monk, as beggar and king, as warrior and healer. And in each life, you carved experiences into the subtle fabric of your being, lessons, attachments, joys, regrets, all carried in the heart of the soul like fragrant imprints upon incense. There is a reason you feel what you feel in certain places. The soul never forgets. The impressions of past incarnations are not erased. They are simply veiled by the amnesia of Maya, the illusion that this is your only life. But the veil is not seamless. It lifts in moments of great stillness, of awe, of recognition. You walk into a monastery and your heart kneels before your body does. You step into an old village and feel both longing and fear. Why? Because your soul has been there, and it remembers. Let me tell you something you have always known, but perhaps feared to believe. You have died before, and you have lived before. You have walked beneath these stars in other bodies, in other centuries. You have kissed loved ones who now walk in different skins. You have made promises in temples that still echo through your longing. And the places that stir you are not random. They are coordinates in your soul's map. Some call them karmic residues. I call them divine reminders. Each life leaves behind a vibration, and that vibration attaches itself to people, places, even objects. When the soul returns to those vibratory fields, it awakens memory, not always consciously, but deeply, undeniably. You may not see the image, but you feel the mood, and that mood is sacred. The soul is not linear, it is spherical. All your lives exist in you, overlapping like waves. And when one rises, it brings with it the scent of a forgotten prayer, the echo of a promise unkept, or the peace of a lesson fulfilled. Imagine a mansion with many rooms. You are walking through only one, but behind every door are lives you once lived. And sometimes God leaves those doors cracked open, not to confuse you, but to awaken you, to whisper, there is more to you than you know. This moment is not separate from all you've been. It is the flowering of 1,000 seeds, and your emotions, your longings, your unspoken griefs, they are not signs of weakness. They are sacred remnants of who you've been and who you are becoming. Breathe deeply now. Say with me, I am the soul eternal and free. I have walked this earth in many forms. I bless my past. I honor my journey. I open the door to remembrance. You are not here by accident, and you are not alone. Your path has been prepared. Your longing is proof of your awakening. Let us go deeper still. The body is the costume, the mind, the temporary script. But the soul, oh, the soul is the actor who never leaves the stage. Life after life, it changes roles, changes scenery, but it is never truly separate from its own eternal memory. And yet you may wonder, why do I not remember all that I have lived? Why are these echoes only partial, emotional, fleeting? The answer lies in Maya, the great illusion, the divine hypnosis that binds spirit to matter. Maya is not evil. It is purposeful. It is the veil that makes the play of life possible. For if you were to remember every sorrow and every triumph of past incarnations with your conscious mind, you could not bear the weight. Your soul would be pulled in all directions, unable to focus on the lesson of this life. So the mind forgets, but the soul never does. It carries vasanas, subtle impressions that pass from life to life. These are not mere memories, but vibrational imprints, energetic residues of intense experiences. They do not live in your thoughts. They live in your heart, in your nervous system, in your spiritual aura. And here is the mystery. These soul impressions are not dormant. They are active. They attract people, circumstances, and most powerfully, places. Just as a tuning fork will vibrate when struck near its harmonic twin, so your soul vibrates when it comes near the energies it once knew. This is why you feel unexplainable sensations in certain environments. The soul is responding to invisible memory. A field of battle, a desert temple, an ocean cliff, a cobblestone street, perhaps even an ordinary house with sunlight falling just so upon the floor. You walk in and something rises in your chest, a wave, a shiver, a stillness, a tear. The ego says, this is strange, but the soul says, I know this. The veil of Maya, for a brief moment, thins. Maya cannot stop the soul from feeling what it knows. It can only cloud the understanding, but even that veil begins to weaken when you start to seek God above all. When you quiet the restlessness of the world and begin to listen inwardly, Maya starts to loosen her grip. The memories rise, not as stories, but as feelings. You begin to realize that not all your suffering belongs to this life, and not all your love began here either. Let me explain it in another way. The earth is filled with sacred geography, places where the vibrations of intense human experience remain long after the people are gone. Just as scent lingers in a room long after the candle has been blown out, so spiritual energy lingers where the soul has once passed in deep longing, sorrow, or devotion. These places are not just physical, they are vibrational. And when your soul encounters one that resonates with its own past, a reunion occurs. A reunion beneath your awareness, yet no less real. Do not be afraid of this. It is not madness. It is not delusion. It is the truth beneath the forgetting. The soul remembers through the language of feeling, and every powerful emotion you feel in a place, when unexplained, is a message. A divine tap on the shoulder saying, "There is something here for you. Look deeper. Pray here. Listen here. You are not haunted. You are being called. Now breathe again and speak softly. I am not afraid of what I feel. I welcome the soul's wisdom, even if the mind does not understand. Reveal to me, Lord, what the mind cannot hold but the heart already knows. Maya veils, but prayer reveals. Let the inner light shine through the fog. Let us go now to the next threshold. There are no accidents in the geography of the soul. Just as God placed the stars in perfect alignment to guide the night traveler, so too has He placed in your life the very stones, mountains, and corners of earth where your soul once awakened, once wept, once vowed to return. Have you ever wondered why some places make you feel as though you've come home, though you've never been there before? Why a dusty temple or a hillside ruin ignites a joy so deep it borders on tears? These are not feelings born of fantasy. These are the echoes of sacred geography, the vibrational footprints your soul once left behind. In my own divine remembrance, I have felt the trembling thrill of memory in ancient lands. When I stood before the Himalayas, I did not behold them for the first time. My soul bowed, it remembered. I had meditated there in silence ages before I wore this body. The wind that caressed my cheek was not a stranger, it was a companion of old. Each soul carries a karmic map, and that map is not just marked with people and lessons, but with places, energetic environments where something irreversible once occurred. A prayer, a betrayal, a healing, a sacred death. These places vibrate with your old presence, and when your spirit returns, there is a magnetic recognition, a reunion without words. Let me share with you what I have taught my students. The soul never forgets where it has burned brightly. It never forgets where it has wept in surrender. These places are stored in its memory, not as images, but as frequencies. And when the frequency of the outer world matches the stored vibration within you, a powerful awakening occurs. Sometimes that awakening is gentle, like a lullaby remembered. Sometimes it is raw, like a wound reopened. But in all cases, it is sacred. It is a gift from God to show you, you are not what you think. You are older than this moment. You are carrying more than this life. And so I ask you, when a place moves you, do not rush past it. Sit, breathe, open your inner eye. Close your earthly eyes and let the veil grow thin. Ask the beloved, what have I left here? What have I come to remember? The truth is, many of you are drawn to certain cities, certain lands, not for work or curiosity, but because your karma is still there. You are pulled to complete something, to reclaim something, to offer a final prayer in a life that never had closure. This is not mysticism, it is vibrational law. The soul is a magnet, and places hold charges. You may find yourself weeping in the desert, smiling at an unfamiliar chapel, feeling dizzy in an old European alleyway. Do not brush it off. Kneel inwardly. Something in you is awakening. Do you remember when I wrote of Sri Yukteswar, who beheld past lives unfolding through divine vision? I too have seen the deep ties between souls and places. In meditation, I have witnessed lives once lived, temples once served, battles once fought. And I tell you this not to impress, but to reassure. You are not alone in this remembrance. All of us walk with invisible stories woven into our very bones. And those stories are waiting to be seen, not through the eyes of reason, but through the gaze of stillness. So let us do this together now. Breathe deeply. Close your eyes and picture a place that once stirred you, though you could not explain why. Say, I bless the place where I once prayed. I bless the land where I once loved. I welcome the memory my soul is ready to see. This world is not foreign to you. It is familiar. It is sacred. It is laced with clues from the divine to guide you back, not to the past, but to your deepest self. When a place awakens a feeling in you that your intellect cannot name, it is not confusion. It is guidance. It is your soul whispering beneath the surface of logic, inviting you into a conversation that cannot be held in words. In such moments, the wise seeker does not ask, "What does this mean?" but instead breathes deeply and says, "Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth." You see, the soul is not linear in its movements. It is circular, spiral, always revisiting what must be completed. And sometimes a location calls you not to explain, but to finish, to reconcile, to remember something that needs to be felt before it can be released. The soul's longing is a form of divine instruction, and when your soul stirs in a particular place, it is because something there still belongs to your unfolding. Perhaps a lesson unfinished, a vow unfulfilled, or a love not yet sanctified. How then shall you respond to these sacred inner alarms? Not with fear, not with haste, but with holy curiosity. First, do not dismiss the emotion. If you feel sorrow arise in a quiet chapel, or peace in a windswept field, or nervousness in an old hotel, stop, be still. And instead of saying, "This is strange," say, "This is familiar." God is not playing with you. He is reminding you. You are not being haunted. You are being healed. Second, bring your full presence to the moment. Rest your hands gently over your heart or navel, where soul memory often stirs, and breathe. Allow yourself to feel without resistance. The mind may clamor to name it. Let it go. What matters is not naming the memory, but receiving its frequency. Third, journal or pray in that place, even silently. Whisper in your soul, "If there is something here I am meant to reclaim, I open to it. If there is something I must release, I surrender it. If someone I once loved walked here, I bless them now." These are not just emotional exercises. They are karmic keys. What you feel and release in stillness may close a loop that has followed you across lifetimes. In this way, the soul rewrites its own story, not by understanding everything, but by aligning with divine truth in the moment it returns to a karmic echo. You may never know with the mind what happened there. That is not necessary. What is necessary is to trust that the divine intelligence within you has brought you here not to confuse, but to liberate. Do not underestimate how subtle shifts, emotions felt, prayers whispered, presence honored, can have enormous effects on the soul's unfolding. Sometimes a tear shed in the right place carries away 1,000 years of burden. Sometimes a breath taken in the right sacred field awakens a destiny long delayed. And so, I invite you now to turn inward and reflect. What places have moved you beyond explanation? What land or street or shrine still calls to you in dreams? What foreign place feels more like home than the house you were born in? These are not questions of nostalgia. They are portals. They are signs of the map written not in paper and ink, but in divine memory. Let us pause now for a moment of reverent stillness. Close your eyes and picture one such place. Say quietly, "Beloved, if there is something here for me to receive, let it come with grace. If there is something here I must offer, let it be given in love. I walk not by memory, but by divine guidance." You are not lost, beloved. You are being led back to yourself. What you call coincidence, the soul calls attraction. What you call curiosity, the spirit often calls destiny. Nothing you are drawn to is random, and nowhere you are pulled is accidental. The soul is governed by the law of divine magnetism, the spiritual principle that like attracts like, that vibration follows vibration, that the soul, though veiled in Maya, always circles back to the energies it must resolve, fulfill, or complete. There is a reason you return. There is a reason you circle back to that temple, that mountain, that ocean's edge. There is a reason you booked that trip without understanding why. There is a reason your heart leaps when you hear a foreign language. A reason your body weeps before your mind can comprehend. It is magnetism, divine magnetism, pulling you back to where your spirit left something unfinished or sacred. You are not just pulled by desire, you are drawn by spiritual memory. It may be a place where you left behind a promise, a soul you once loved, a teacher you once followed, a betrayal you once carried, a death you never completed in peace. These karmic signatures do not fade until they are seen, embraced, and released. And the places where they occurred become magnetized with your longing for closure, your readiness for healing. Some of you return to places for joy, to reclaim a light once lived. Some return for grief, to finally complete a mourning you never had time for. Others are pulled to places of devotion where you once communed with God under a sky now lost to time. Do not underestimate the intelligence of the divine within you. Your return is not mere nostalgia. It is grace moving beneath the surface of your consciousness. And not just places, people. There are souls you encounter in this life who seem instantly familiar. Their presence evokes ancient ache or instant comfort. These too are part of the magnetic law. You return to where the energy is ripe for completion, whether it be forgiveness, love, release, or reawakening. You may walk into a room and feel sorrow not your own. You may dream of a country you've never visited and awaken weeping. You may be drawn to a religion or culture you were never taught, and yet feel it as your own. These are pulls of the spirit, not the mind. These are the signals of past incarnations awakening through divine magnetic recall. In this sacred teaching of Sanatana Dharma, this eternal truth, we know that the soul returns until it learns, loves, and lets go. And when a vibration remains, unresolved or unsurrendered, it calls the soul back again and again until the circle is closed with light. You may think it strange that you're drawn to a place of war, or that a particular street in a distant city gives you calm, or that an old house you've never entered feels like a memory waiting behind every door. But these are not hallucinations. These are invitations to remember. Invitations to say, I was here before. I return not to live again, but to awaken. You are not wandering aimlessly. You are spiraling upward through God's design. The magnet within you is God Himself, pulling you back to all that must be made whole. And when you say yes to that call, not with fear but with devotion, miracles unfold. Peace returns, karma dissolves. Breathe now. Place your palms over your heart and speak. I return to where my soul still echoes. I walk where God has led me, not for confusion, but for completion. Where I am drawn, there too is my deliverance. Now the circle begins to close. Now remembrance becomes liberation. To remember is not to suffer again. To remember with God is to redeem. You were never meant to carry the past as a weight, but to hold it like light in the palm, to bless it and to rise beyond it. The shift is not in what you remember. The shift is in how you remember it, as a soul, not as a victim of time. The feeling that overcomes you in sacred places is not there to haunt. It is there to heal. It is not a curse, but a signal of your soul's readiness. Readiness to see what was once veiled, to feel what was once buried, to release what no longer serves your divine evolution. And when you feel it, not in the mind, but in the silence behind the breath, you are being given an opportunity, the opportunity to transform karmic memory into spiritual momentum. Let me be clear, beloved, your tears are not failures. Your trembling is not weakness. These are signs of the soul thawing, melting the frost of forgotten lives and bringing warmth back to the heart of your eternal being. Every tear shed in awareness waters the next flower of wisdom. Every sigh released in surrender becomes a wind that lifts you to the next horizon of God realization. Do not fight the sacred feeling. Do not rush to escape it. Sit with it as you would a holy guest. Let it speak. Let it show you where your soul has already grown and where it still seeks light. Every time you allow the past to move through you without fear, you are not reliving it. You are freeing it. You are dissolving the old spell. This is the blessing of the shift. to take memory and bless it into wisdom, to take sorrow and sanctify it into love, to take confusion and illuminate it with the eternal gaze of God within you. I have walked this path. I have remembered lives long buried beneath Himalayan snows, beneath Indian stars, beneath western skies, and in every vision I was shown not to cling, but to offer it to the light, to kneel before the memory and say, "You served me, you shaped me, but now I am free, and so must you." You do not need to remember the names. You do not need to see the faces. All you need is this sacred intention, to bless what arises and to walk forward in God. Let every emotion be a teacher. Let every sacred place be a portal. Let every strange familiarity become a vow of awakening. You were not meant to live forever in cycles of return. You were meant to rise. And this stirring in your chest, this pull in your soul, is the beginning of that rising. Now place your hand over your heart once more, and let us say together, every emotion is a signal from the soul. Every sacred place is a doorway to my liberation. I do not fear what I remember. I walk forward in the light. You are not bound by your past. You are being crowned by it. The soul does not trap itself in memory. It uses memory as wings. Let us now walk through the final gate. Now, beloved, let us leave the questions behind. Let us leave the past behind. Let us leave even the seeking behind. For what you are yearning to remember is not a place, not a story, not a name from another life. It is the one who sent you into every incarnation, into every echo, into every birth and every death. The soul does not wander to remember its past. It wanders to return to God. And so we end where we must always begin, in stillness. Stillness is the bridge between the seen and unseen. Stillness is the language of the soul, the temple of remembrance, the altar where past and present dissolve into eternal now. If you wish to reclaim your full self, not just the version bound by time, but the radiant traveler who has walked with angels, then you must enter the stillness and sit with the one who has walked beside you always. You may have died 100 times. You may have loved and lost and prayed in 1,000 lands. But only in the stillness will you hear the thread that links every life, every tear, every vow. That thread is the voice of the divine beloved. It whispers, "You were never lost. You were never alone. I have walked with you in every place, in every form. Come home now, not to a memory, but to me." Let us pause now together. Wherever you are, close your eyes softly. Let your body become quiet. Place your right hand over your heart and your left over your navel, connecting this life to the lives before. Let the breath become slow, round, and silent. And into this sacred breath, repeat after me, not with lips alone, but with the soul. I have lived before, I will live again, but I belong to the eternal now. I bless every life I have walked through. I forgive what was. I release what clings. I awaken what is holy within me. Reveal to me, beloved, the thread that weaves my many lives into one song of love. Again, breathe in, say it aloud with breath and belief. Reveal to me, beloved, the thread that weaves my many lives into one song of love. And now be still. Do not ask. Do not search. Just be. The soul will speak where words end. The soul will show you without showing, a warmth, a peace, a knowing. That is God's reply. And when you rise tomorrow, you may walk the same road, pass the same trees, return to the same home. But you will not be the same. For you are now a soul who sees not just with eyes, but with vision. You are now a pilgrim who knows that the ache in the chest, the pull toward a land, the tear in the wind, are not signs of madness, but of memory returning to the light. This is not the end of the path. It is the beginning of sacred clarity. The world is not random. It is choreographed by God for the unfolding of your soul. Walk now with that certainty. Speak this one final seal and carry it wherever you go. I remember who I am. I remember where I have been. But more than all, I remember you, my beloved, in every breath, in every place, in every time. I bless you now and I invite you. Return here whenever you feel the pull of something unseen. Sit, breathe, ask, and the soul will respond. Go now in peace, not as one wandering, but as one called.